And down here, hot off his victory versus Big Gabe, it is the Frenchman from Team Liquid. Team Liquid's Clem. We're moving on to Pride of Altaris, a map that Kalaris was actually mentioning. This is going to be the first map. This is not a map that we oftentimes see, especially, I think, versus Zerg players. A lot of players, they see a Zerg and they say, well, I'm gonna go ahead and X-nay this map right out of the map pool, but this is a best of 7 cats. There are no vetoes here.
There are no vetoes indeed, and I mean this is a rough map though to start for any Terran against a Zerg. So you know it's a little bit difficult for a Clem that's already lagging behind 0-1, because this could give Reynor just a massive advantage if he can manage to close out this map. Now, if Clem can steal this map, I feel like it is amazing for him, because all of a sudden the map pool will be at least, you know, like perceptually in his favor, and then we are all tied up. So it's a huge map for Clem, but it could also get an unstoppable snowball rolling.
Yeah, it is. Again, like, it comes back to the fact that the same reason why Reynor starts up 1-0, the first map is chosen by the person from the winner's bracket, because again, making it all the way to the grand finals without losing any series, and you face off versus someone who has, like, we gotta give some advantages. We gotta give some kind of reward to that. So it does mean that Reynor is going to start off the series in an advantageous position. Can Clem overcome that? Can he still make something magical happen? Well, so far, we do see kind of normalish openings over here. No crazy early pools or shenanigans in that regard happening, but that's why do Zerg players actually like this map so much?
I mean, it is just a difficult map to attack into for the Terran player, and there is that gold base as well that Zerg can utilize better than most other races. There is a wide open space as well in the middle of the map with the watchtower and multiple paths of attack for Ling Rambais and Baneling Rambais later on. So kind of difficult for units of the other races to exploit it as easily as Zerg can. And Zerg gets to swarm basically in the middle of the map as well, which is never a good sign for other races. So yeah, like, it is a very Zergy map. It is basically the least played map the entire season, I believe. And yeah, I mean, we played the War Chest Team League, and if your team didn't have a Zerg, Ravi, you must know how much players don't want to play here.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a feeling or some inclination of how it feels to have a team of 4 Protoss players all trying to decide, or sorry, 5 Protoss players all trying to decide who has to play Pride of Altaris against the Zerg players.
Yeah, and you know it's a Zerg player there,
yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, you know, funny enough, I think weirdly, like, we got metagame during the War Chest team, or the Caster Civil War, where a lot of players would just be like, you know, they think they were going to send the Zerg out, so we'll not send the Zerg out. I'm like, what, really? Oh, I mean, we're okay with that, but just, yeah, very unexpected. Unfortunately, Clem does not have that advantage. He knows that Reynor is going to be coming out on this map. It's only Reynor all day, every day for this grand finals for him. Not necessarily an opponent that anyone's going to be super enthusiastic about facing off against, but so far, no major setbacks, I should say, have happened just yet. And Clem just poking around, trying to find any creep tumors, finding any little openings over here. But back at home, he's already starting up a pretty quick 1-1. Going to be getting that tech lab onto that barracks, start up some good old upgrades.
Yeah, only if you're a masochist do you want to go up against Reynor. However, this is a really good start for Clem, because this is the biggest nightmare of any Zerg player as far as build orders are concerned. There is a drone picked up here, but can he get a little bit more? He's going to have to if he wants to justify this run, but he is going to get 3 all day. That's not too bad. Also morphing a Spore. So fine for Clem, good for Clem even. And the best thing for Clem that happened this game is he was going for extreme greed, and Reynor went for basically the opposite, the super safe Overlord Scout, right? So Reynor goes for a very fast Overlord speed. How does that pay off? If you scout your opponent is going for something very aggressive, if you scout some hidden tech, like maybe Banshees or something like that, to which you can be prepared against, then the Overlord speed kind of pays for itself, and then you just have it all game to try to keep tabs and control of the game later on. However, if you scout 2 eBays and 3 CCs, well, you've just invested into tech that's not going to help you take that down, tech that's not going to allow you to be aggressive against it or try to punish it. So you're just kind of scouting how you're behind. However, these Hellions are looking to get caught, and that could be a nice avenue, I want to say, back into the game for Reynor, but it's not like much has happened.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of these Hellions that he knocks down is going to open up some opportunities of attack there for Reynor. Even if you just say the Hellions normally don't find too much value in the earlier or like after the earlier stages of the game, they absolutely can be helpful, especially when you start getting things like the armory and stuff up and you're maybe being aggressive as Clem is wont to do out on the map, out on your opponent's side of the map. And a little Ling run by comes into your third base. You know what's really great at dealing with that kind of stuff, Cats? It's actually just having like 1 or 2 Hellbats situated by that third base, buying a bit of time, taking some cost-efficient trades to try and discourage that. And well, Reynor's actually going to do exactly what I was just talking about of going for some of these Ling run bys, as Reynor is, well, going to find a couple of Marines here, but they don't quite have Stim just yet.
Yeah, Clem a little bit of position. Stim's about to finish. 1-1 did finish. The armor is also going to allow Clem to go into the 2-2 right away and continue to accrue himself an advantage on those fronts. I agree with you. I mean, we see Clem, out of all players, is the one that is most likely to leave a Hellion or a Hellbat back at the natural expansion. I think he is the one who I've seen it do it the most, and maybe the first one that I've seen it do it consistently. So I would love to see that from him as his first attack is ready to go out. There's going to be a +1/+1 advantage for Clem should Reynor take the fight right now for the next few seconds.
Yeah, and they are already skirmishing a little bit back and forth over here. Clem is going to end up having to back on off. The Banelings are ready, and I want to actually note one of the games, the big games in game number 1 of the series that they played yesterday, I feel like one of the biggest problems for Clem was that his third base had absolutely no infrastructure at it. And by infrastructure, I mean supply depots, wall-ins, protection against the run-bys. And it had a little bit to do with like the style and stuff that he was playing, the build order, how aggressive he was trying to be. But this game, you can see he is much better set up. He has a nearly full wall over there, protecting his units and SCVs, making sure that they are not just going to have Banelings or Lings immediately be able to run in completely unabated.
100%. And we saw this type of play against the Laser, but against Reynor, he didn't have it, like you said. And against, you know, if there's a player that you cannot afford to just be like, oh yeah, let's see, let me see how fast I can react to your stuff. I mean, we see it in action right now. Like that bunker already paying for it. So no, the Marines are going to go out to their death. I mean, they still did their job. The bunker still did its job. But yeah, those 3 Marines are going to have to be replaced. It's not a great cost. And of course, you're still pretty happy about the bunker. But a minor blunder as now. Clem is going to look to readjust off of creep, just staying on the outskirts of it. He cannot allow those Banelings to connect. One Baneling moving forward will get sniped, as now the rest of the Banelings are just kind of go by themselves, and that's enough for Clem to turn this fight around. So a good start to the fight for Clem. A lot of points off of creep here. 3 are going to get picked off on the retreat, and now Clem with a scan can gain a lot of ground, but no, Reynor's going to have something to say about that. Marauders tanking at the front. The Marines have made their way back out of creep, so these Banelings will have to once again disengage, and here comes the scan forward. Clem will identify that there's a lot of Banelings being morphed, so he has to still be careful, maybe load up into the medevacs this time around. That's exactly what he's going to do, and he will get out by the skin of his teeth, but a successful poke from the young Frenchman.
I have to imagine Clem's going to be pretty happy with how a lot of those trades went. He had some great focus fire down over there, avoiding a lot of the Banelings until, like you said, the fights are happening off of creep, and he was able to take some really, really nice trades there. And now you can see, even though the supplies are still pretty even, and Reynor is absolutely still in this, he has been taking a lot of these trades. He's been bleeding out a lot of these Banelings. I'm actually really impressed that Reynor, during all of this, despite having to make so many Banelings, despite having to make all these Hydras and everything, has found time to throw down an infestation pit and start up a hive. Like, I don't even know where Reynor's getting all this money from.
Yeah, I mean, Clem does gain some ground, but it's ground that was difficult that he had to fight for. I mean, Reynor holding this watchtower in the middle of the map with those units earlier, for example, and those bushes make it difficult for Clem to ever take that position. And we're still in Kappa Pride of Altaris, which means Reynor's going to have that goal to have been working in his favor for a little while. He has been mining a little bit of extra money there as well. So yeah, of course, he's not going to be lagging too far behind by any means. Those trades, if anything, just go to equalize this game and make it playable for Clem now on this very difficult Cirque map.
Banelings getting stuck behind the Hydras, making it so that Clem can focus fire down those Banelings one by one as they start to approach. He snipes out almost all of them, only a couple of them remaining. We do see a big run by over at the gold base, though. This is no way you can defend this one.
No way, Josue. On the other side, the Marines get tucked between the kind of like the corner and the tank, so they will be fine to fend off the rest of the aggression. But yeah, I mean, that's the gold base of Clem as well reset, where Reynor is mining comfortably from his.
Yeah, there was a moment there right after that run by happened that there was only 3 banelings left over there for Reynor, but I mean, a big fight off of creep. I feel like all these banelings, the Lings coming in from behind from that counter attack, gonna be able to solidify the position over there. And Reynor, I mean, he pushed Clem so far back that now he can retreat back and know that he's actually been respreading the creep behind it. These queens have been active. Maybe not all the creep tubers get up, but he is buying himself a lot of space, which is already going to put him in a nice spot.
Yeah, at the same time, Clem quick to reclaim set space here, and he has pushed the creep far back enough and not allowing it for Reynor. He does not want that creep to go back out, so he wants to play a tempo-oriented game, and that is where Clem oftentimes thrives. He is behind in supply, and a lot of this, but this huge run-by is gonna actually just end the game, as Clem was already struggling to reinforce. With Lings at this natural, he was gonna not gonna get to reinforce and lose economy in that process. So yeah, when you're looking for the snowball and that happens, it is just pretty game ending. Great efforts from Clem, but yeah, Reynor, I mean, showing him who's boss on the Sergius map in the map pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to be now a 2-0 lead in the grand finals there for Reynor because of that 1-0 start that he has from starting in the winner's bracket and now winning on the map. I feel like those are the 2 major advantages that you get. So Reynor, it's kind of like the reality of what you just get from having lost to Reynor yesterday as Clem. But it does mean that this is how things are expected to play out in a lot of ways. Like, this is the map that Reynor is supposed to win. Now you start down 2-0. This is where, like, the battle truly begins for Clem, but it is going to be now an uphill battle because, yeah, you do just have to win more. Like, obviously, you have to win more games in the series than your opponent does. But now you have to win even more games in the series than your opponent does. You have to win 2 more than your opponent does.
Yeah, here's the good news, though. I mean, that looked really strong from Clem, right? Again, if that's any other map, then positional advantages matter a little bit more. Here, you have to fight out in the open the entire time against Zerg. We know that Zerg units thrive in the open. They want to get those rounds. They want to have free movement, and they want to, just encroach from every which angle, which Clem is very, very good with positioning in general. So he often is hugging those walls. He's often, has mines in good positions, etc. Now he has to go up against the watchtower. He has to go up against open ground. He has to go up against the bushes, and he has to go up against the gold. And in spite of all those things, it looked like a close game. So it gives me a lot of hope for Clem to put up a good fight here.
Cats, I think we could both agree that Reynor has momentum favor right now, right? Okay. How do you feel about the fact that Reynor is basically saying, forget the momentum that I have going in my favor and all that stuff, the good feeling, the good vibes I got coming in off of that victory, being up 2-0. Can we pause? Because I need to do a Windows update right now. Oh my God. Like, Reynor's actually just saying, like, should I do it? My FPS is a little bit lower than usual. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go for the restart. He's doing a Windows update right now. Cats, I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, imagine being in a grand finals up 2-0. You just had a hot victory and you're like, yeah, Windows update. This is the time for it.
I mean, that's where you freeze your opponent because you know that Reynor's just comfortably sitting in his chair laughing at the Windows update and the questions that Windows is asking of him. But on the other side, it's Clem who's sweating, right? Who's kind of just simmering in his position, which is a 0-2. You don't want to get that. You don't want to let that catch up to you in your state of mind, right? Like, you don't want to simmer on being behind it. Like, let that get inside your head. So I'd say Windows doing a little bit of a favor here to Reynor.
Ah, I see. So you're saying it's actually a window of opportunity in this game. I like it. Right. I like it, Cats. I like the way you think. Actually, that's a fair point. It's never a good feeling being down in a series, especially when it's down 2-0 in the grand finals. But yeah, Clem gonna have to sit with that for a little bit longer. Reynor getting into the head games over here versus Clem. I like it.
At the same time, Ravi, I'm gonna have to get in the mindset of the one guy on Twitch that's gonna show up inevitably and tell you got, why are you talking so much? Can we just get started, please? Like, games? Hello?
We just explained it.
Ravi, no. Games. I am sick of this.
But games. Okay, one of the players is literally incapable of playing.
Listen, Ravi, I don't care about your explanation. I just want to see the games.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Quiet.
Yeah, just stop talking. Stop. Play the games. Yeah. I think one thing I did also want to mention is, like, this is, again, I was kind of saying this before. this is the moment that really Clem should be able to start fighting back. And it's actually in more than one way. Remember, best of 7 works out for both players a little bit in the sense that there's no vetoes. The next map is also the map that most typically, more often than not, you look at a Terran versus Zerg. What is the map that the Zerg player is going to veto versus the Terran? It's Curious Minds. And that is going to be the next map. This is the map that Terran players should feel confident and comfortable on versus Zerg players. So if there is a map that is like incredibly important for Clem to win, it would be this map. Like if Clem loses this map, hope in the series starts dying very quickly, Cats.
Yeah, I mean, this is the map. This is the map where we got to start bringing it back. It's not an easy one. It might be a roachy one. And Reynor does have a lot of range, and Clem has struggled with roaches in the past, but he has also been known to be opening a lot of Banshees. So I maybe think that Reynor would be wiser to stray away from the roaches. And this would be the map where if you're Clem, I think you would want to open with those Banshees. We are all loaded into the game as Reynor is back. The update has finished and succeeded. And now we are here for game 2, but Reynor is up 2-0. So in the bottom right-hand side, do you call it game 2 or game 3?
I call it map number 2.
Map number 2. It is for Kai C Gaming, the runner-up of the World Championship, Reynor.
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, we have our blue Terran player from Team Liquid. Not down and out just yet. He's going to fight back this game. He is Clem. The kid, the Frenchman. You know, I think he was one of those players also that was at that Team Liquid training facility trying to improve his gameplay. Was there. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Kelazor who was taking a photo of him falling asleep to the soothing sounds of Rotterdam's stream as he was training hard and long days at the Team Liquid facility and everything. I have to imagine Clem has got that mentality. He's coming in feeling better than he did before, like the entire events, just knowing that he got a good amount of practice in, had a good experience there, and he was looking really strong this season. I really do think that that first game should hopefully not be representative of what Clem can bring out. I think he is absolutely capable of a lot more, and I believe, Cats, we're going to see it starting now.
We are going to see it starting now. I really hope so, Rabs. I mean, it's a difficult position. If you're Clem right now, you've lost 4 in a row, right? In the last couple of days. And your opponent has an advantage from not having dropped any series. So it's not looking too great, but at least, you know, if you refocus, it's only a 2-game advantage in this series. You close out this game. 1 game at a time has to be your mindset right now. And that last game looked promising. It looked good from Clem. Just an extremely difficult map to overcome, I think. And yeah, this map should be a little bit different. So let's see what happens here. I expect a 3CC with a Banshee follow-up from Clem, but if I expect that, then Reynor might too. Then again, it's a pretty solid opener, so still kind of what I would like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Reaper comes on and is going to do its little poking and prodding and stuff. And, I will say, Cats, I'm also heartened by the fact that outside of yesterday's match, for the most part, that was very nicely. That is a very rare thing to see, a Reaper killing a drone.
Yeah, I mean, a Ling is cause for celebration. A drone is very, very rare. Again, like when Reynor plays against an Archon of 3 of the best European pros, right? Like oftentimes it's like the great guys, right? And Laser and Lambo hards them. And Laser is often the one controlling the Reaper, or at least last time I checked. And Harstem and Lambo both offer him a Cuba Libre should he be able to kill a Zergling or a drone or a Cryptumor, I think even. So yeah, it's amazing that Clem by himself manages to kill the most valuable out of all of those targets here.
Yeah, truly a cause for celebration there, and hopefully a sign of things to come if you're a Clem fan, or just a fan of not having a 4-0 grand finals.
Yeah, I think right now we all have to rally behind Clem and root for him.
Even the Reynor fans should be rallying behind Clem and rooting for him a little bit, just because you want to see more Reynor, right? Like everybody wins if this series goes longer. And well, Clem is going to be going for. If I have to say, there's one unit that I just feel like Clem controls better than almost every other Terran player out there. It is definitely going to be like the Liberator. Liberator harassment is something that I think he made a name for himself off of a bit.
Oh.
He was so good at keeping that alive. Reaper's going to go down over here, and the Hellions actually start committing pretty far in, decide to back off, as I think it's going to be a wise choice. But yeah, Clem is very on point with a lot of his Liberator harassment in these games.
Yeah, but he does have to recover. He did give away that Reaper, right? Like a very successful Reaper earlier on. This time around, it doesn't turn the right corner, and the Hellions are still discouraged to go in because Reynor already had 6 links, not only 6 links, but well spread at his natural behind a couple of queens to where it's very difficult to judge whether your Hellions are going to be able to do damage or not. I think that Clem could have committed for it, but he more likely than not would have lost the Hellions and maybe broken even at best. Here, the Liberator is going to try to do something, but already 3 queens in close proximity. On the other side, the Hellions are going to be the real banger here for Clem, as he's going to look to kill a few drones, now refocusing his attention towards the links, and he's going to be successful in clearing a lot of those out. Now the queens are going to get left behind, but there's nowhere to run forward for those Hellions, as there's 3 queens near the ramp as well. So they do clear all of the links and the drones, however, so not too bad of a book for Clem.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something there, but I think losing the Liberator and the fact that he clears the Lings, but because, like you were saying, the Queens were in position to push back the Hellions from doing anything more Lings are able to pop out now. And I think, like, Reynor should actually feel like he has still a comfortable hold in defense here. To your point, though, killing off the Lings means that more Lings have to be made instead of additional drones, so it does slow down Reynor. It's kind of like indirectly killing future drones that could have been is like another way of looking at it. So Clem should still feel like he was able to get some damage done, maybe not as much as he was hoping for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, those are 12 links that are remade. That is the cost of 6 rounds, right? So yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he kept most of the Hellions alive as well. So I do think that that was a successful poke on the side of Clem here, as he is going to continue to try to just mitigate for the creep spread. Unfortunately for him, he misses one of those creep tumors. Great focus firing from Reynor will net him the forward most and weakest Hellion there, as Clem gears up to take his 3rd base. Also ahead in upgrades yet again.
Yep, staying on point with all of those upgrades. And with the 3rd base, one of the things we're going to be keeping an eye out for is when Clem can get those wall-ins and stuff set up over his 3rd base. Something Reynor absolutely loves, again, to do all of those little run-bys of the Lings and the Banelings and stuff. And we do have 1-1 getting started up again a little bit later there for Reynor, but still getting started up because he's doing a good job with these run-bys already. And the friendly fire from the siege tank actually killing a handful of these Marines as well. Ooh.
Yeah, at the same time, this couldn't have been more timely for Clem because he's moving from his main with those Marines, right? So it's lucky that Reynor moves in at the exact time that he's doing exactly that. The armory will finish, allowing for this Hellions to turn into Hellbats, much chunkier. Is there Banelings out on the map? There is 4. So those are going to be the main target, or the Hellbats are going to be the main target for those. They're going to have to split a little bit here as they are now flanking the Banelings. They're going to find 2 Hellbats clumped up together, but choose to go after the Marines instead. Now the Hellbats are going to be left behind to fend off against the Queens, which they're not going to have a good time of, and Reynor with a clean defense for the time being.
Yeah, so far only really losing a handful of these creep tumors and stuff, and I love the focus fire on these medevacs. It just makes it so much harder as a Terran player to feel like you have a safe evacuation path once those medevacs start getting low. So Clem has to effectively just play safer with his medevacs. He can't be as aggressive because he knows he's very, very close to losing that. And I do love that he actually comes in with the SCVs and even just repairs that back up.
Yeah, 100%. Everything that you said there is 1,000,000% true. It's just, you know, your staying power is kind of minimized by the health of your medevacs, especially with that many queens out. But oh, look at this creep spread from Reynor on the other side. It has been nasty. Clem has been controlling the creep on the left-hand side of the map, but on the right, it's just been getting out of control. It has a mind of its own, and it has been non-stop. Reynor is just so freaking good at this game. The creep spread already at the doorstep of Clem.
Yep. He's going to be able to clean up a lot of the active creep tumors over there.
No!
Tries to go for some trains, but Reynor gets some great Baneling connections on a lot of those Marines. Also catching the Marines on the bottom side. Whose map is this supposed to be favoring right now, Cats? This is actually nuts.
Oh man, like as that happened, I looked at the camera and yeah, that was not a French word. It was 4 letters, and that started with an F that came out of Clem's mouth, and it was clear there. So yeah, I mean, that is not what you want. Losing that many Marines is going to make it very, very difficult. And with that, Reynor gets a big advantage in this map. And Clem not only unsuccessfully doesn't manage to save those Marines, but also clear the creep, which was what they were sent out there to do. So Reynor, with all the avenues of attack, now has to be put on the defense here from Clem. And I think Clem, once again, is just going to look for kind of like a one-punch army on one side, just try to consolidate this entire army there. The problem for him, Ravi, is if Reynor looks for those counterattacks again, that is the way that Clem could easily break, because he's going to have to forego kind of his right-hand side to try to make this left-hand side as strong as it can be.
Yeah, that is absolutely going to be the case. The creep spread is still all over there. As soon as Reynor is given any kind of freedom, he's going to be able to start segmenting off some units over there. So Clem has to make this a really, really strong push in that just Reynor has to respect to the fullest capabilities. Slaps off a queen over there. That was nicely done. And that creep is going to start receding pretty soon, and eventually Clem's going to start getting closer and closer to that hatchery. Nice snipe off on these banelings. Clem showing some great micro over here. Widowmine gets a magnificent couple of connections, and Clem is forced to pick up, but he's got reinforcements coming in behind all this. Reynor down to only just 8 banelings now.
Yeah, he is morphing a few more, as well as some lurkers inside his base, but this looks like a strong position, difficult to break here on the side of Clem. He's doing a fantastic job. He is very good positionally. Again, those tanks in a very good positions, all of them behind this little bit of what do you call those? The blockers, the vision blockers, right? So it's going to be really nice for those tanks and very difficult to reach. So Clem doing a very good job here, but here are the lurkers too.
Yeah, one lurker was already situated by the hatchery. The rest of them are going to come on forward as the siege tanks are still trying to get siege on up. Are they actually in range of the siege tanks? I don't think that they're actually firing at them. And now we end up seeing Lings come streaming on forward, but there's nothing in front of the lurkers anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, and yet still the Marines are not enough. I mean, the lurkers do amazing. The Widowmine doesn't go in the right direction. There is a very weak lurker that Clem spots, runs towards it, but the scan wears out. He has to finish that one off. He will now. This Widowmine is trying to go forward to try to catch the lurker, and it will target fire the lurker, actually. In spite of there being units, they're trying to get dodged, or trying to dodge that Widowmine. And with this, Clem catching momentum, after all, he is able to break through, and Reynor is going to have to abandon this base. Out of scans, by the looks of it, is Clem, as that one lurker continues to fire, but Clem is actually going to take 11 workers before turning its attention to that lurker. With this high ground, these tanks become extremely more potent as well. Things are looking like Viva la France here is going to prevail in this game, Ravi, in spite of everything that happened earlier.
I mean, Reynor is still going to try and fight this out. He was sitting at 90-some workers, so he's lost 18. He's not even remaking them, but he's still up 83 workers to 77 right now. And the lurkers are actually still trying to find his defensive position. Reynor's in a lot of trouble, but he was trying to make his stand over here. He would love to win on Curious Minds and go up in this series 3-0.
Clem is just so clutch, catching every baneling. Now he's never gonna get hit again, but hey, this is what I was talking about. This is what Reynor wasn't doing that could really throw a spanner in the works here for Clem. He is 30 supply ahead. Things are looking very, very good for him, but now having to evacuate his third and pulling back some army. There is a bunker at that third, but again, in order for Clem to make this attack work at the front, he had to completely forgo that base for a long while. So Reynor just now identifying it. It could have been much better if it happened earlier. All of these medevacs have been working overtime. As you see, there's a ton of them, and they're mostly depleted of their energy. The links are forcing the attention of Clem to be pulled to the side, but he is still finding success with his little pocket of units as he takes down another hatchery of Reynor.
Yeah, that is going to be a big blow to Reynor. Finally, Adaptive Talons finishes up, so those lurkers can burrow a lot faster. They're going to be a lot more mobile now. We're seeing a bit more of a committed counteroffensive here from Reynor along the top right-hand side, but man, Clem is actually on top of it. This is great for Clem. He's able to actually also clean up a lot of that creep spread that is going to make that attack avenue a lot scarier. Lings coming in, but the Widowmines actually clean up so many of them in exchange for those 2 siege tanks. Reynor, he cannot afford to lose any more hatcheries. This would be a killing blow if he loses this hatchery in the top right.
Yeah, and now Clem compositionally, he hasn't done much in the way of transition. I love this Widowmine drops, actually, and they're going to take down a lot of the many workers that Reynor was working with, kind of equalizing the economic situation as far as workers are concerned. And now in favor of Clem, I would say, due to those mules as well, right? But Clem's army has not been ideal to deal with this number of lurkers, so Reynor has been managing to hang on. Now Clem finally has ghosts on the way, however, and when those are out, he's going to be trading cost efficiently, as well as continuing to keep this map control, trying to go into the main is Clem. And let's see if he finds space there, as this game kind of gives us a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, finally we're going to have a little bit of space to breathe, but not for very long, as Clem is going to be dealing with some of the Ling run bys, but now fully walled off, is going to be ready for that, able to push that back, continuing to deny it his base, even if he is losing a handful of Marines here and there. Somehow a Widowmine not going off on anything over there. I don't know what that one's about. That Widowmine is asleep on the job. But Reynor is still in a desperate economic position. I mean, a 4-base Zerg versus a 4-base Terran, I feel like usually does tell the tale. He is just making things work despite it on the advantage of those lurkers.
Yeah, that Widowmine is just mispositioned, right? It wants to be in the bush, but it being 1 hex away from the bush makes it so that any unit that goes past the bush actually gets out of sight of that Widowmine. so yeah, that's not a great position unless the units are coming or flooding in from the side of Reynor into your side of things. So let's see. A few lurkers are gonna attempt at a run by, but they're just gonna lose their lives in the process. So Reynor kind of returning the favor that Clem just gave him on the other side, kind of overreaching there. And those are really important units for Reynor, who is also going to be trying to do a run-by on the left-hand side, but gets deterred by just a single Widowmine and the presence of a planetary fortress. So he's going to go back to trying to defend, but now Clem with a very advantageous position, now with a sizable number of ghosts. This is looking like he should be able to close out this game in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, fantastically done. That hatchery going down, again, it was going to be close to a killing blow. Hydra's barely just struggling to try and clean up some of these Liberators, but as they do, Widowmine's actually managing to take out more Lings and other things. I love the lurker harassment attempt over here.
This could be a turning point. There is a beautiful setup there from Reynor, forcing the units into the range of 3 or 4 lurkers on the high ground. And with that, Reynor now finds an opportunity to be counteroffensive. If we look at the supply, it looks very much in favor of Clem. But if we look at the map, it's rather chaotic. At least Clem manages to pick up a lot of his army and consolidates it down onto that high ground. So it's going to be difficult for Reynor to push onto that. But that got scary for a second.
It really did. There was maybe an opportunity for Reynor to get a bit more done there, but Clem was just so on top of it and being able to pick up. If he had lost even just a little bit more of his supply, I actually think there was a potential where Reynor was denying mining on the bottom left, and he actually manages to just kill the top right-hand base. Suddenly, it does become very awkward for Clem. He is on a 3-base economy at that point for a little bit, and Reynor is actually reestablishing his 4th and 5th base right now. But I will say, not only did he manage to, of course, do a bit of damage there, he bought himself space. He bought himself breathing room. The 4th and 5th bases are up now. He's going to have to deal with this next big attack from Clem, and I think that is going to be the do-or-die moment here for Reynor. But he has given himself an opportunity to do that and also even get up a single infestor, 1 infestor.
Yeah, 1 infestor to save the world here. Of course, a fungal can interrupt a lot of those snipes. It can be pretty great here if he catches the clump of the ghosts. It can be good for surrounds as well. If all of this army of Reynor actually manages to collapse onto the army of Clem, if it manages to get on top of it, then the army of Clem will evaporate and then the game will reset. So Clem has to be super, super careful here as Reynor is trying to get there. The ghosts will struggle to run away from the Banelings, but they are quite tanky against them. So they can afford to tank some shots. The medevacs are going to try to assist here as those are much more mobile units, but ultimately Clem does get pushed out. Still at a very hefty cost for a Reynor that doesn't have that 100 worker economy that he was working with earlier, now at 62 to the 67 workers of Clem.
Yeah, I think Clem is also identified a little bit as he does have some units reinforcing on the top right-hand side, trying to do some harassment. That Reynor is so heavily reliant on these lurkers, he just actually can't split up his army. If Clem hits in 2 places at once right now, it seems almost infeasible that really Reynor is going to be able to do anything about it. That's it. All the lurkers are gone. That was the linchpin keeping Reynor in that game. Clem takes the game, but my God, Cats, I will say, while Clem did maintain control for the later half of that game, it's almost scary how convincingly close Reynor ended up making that look at times.
He really gave himself an opportunity with working with less, which is a very difficult thing to do with Zerg, right? It's very difficult to make Zerg comebacks a lot of the time because you rely on that swarm effect to get the surrounds. But here he did it with brains, right? Like he basically set up Clem a trap where he trapped him at the top of the ramp with 4 lurkers and almost managed to herd him back to those effectively. Clem did react fast enough that he managed to pull back into his medevacs, but like you're saying, if he reacts a couple of seconds later, if 1 more volley out of this 4 or 3 lurkers go off onto the entire army of Clem, all of a sudden Reynor has possibly an advantage, because then he can capitalize back on offense, kill the triangle 3rd, kill the freshly established 5th base, and then kind of get back in control. So amazing job from both of these. Really games so far worthy of a final Rabbi, and I am super excited for this coming map on Hardwire, a little bit more of a Sergi map.
Yeah, I feel like we're finally getting into like a more normal place for the series, right? This is going to be Reynor sitting up a single game, but now we're getting onto the maps like like you were saying, it is going to be like a more Zergy map and everything. I think a lot of Zergs will feel comfortable on this map of Hardwire, but it is at least a map that I think a lot more TVZs tend to happen on, as opposed to like Pride of Altaris and things like that. So I feel like the series is truly begun now, and we can get ready to move into map number 3, which is going to be game number 4, whatever you want to call it.
I am so excited.
Yeah.
All right, we are here. It's gonna be Hardwire for the map number. Yeah, you confused me. Map number 3 or 4, whatever you want to call it, depending on. Yeah, it is Reynor leading the series 2-1, but the maps today have been 1-1 so far split. In the bottom left-hand side for Team Liquid, it is the Miracle Boy, Clem.
And up here in the top right-hand side of the map, may have lost that last game, but is still sitting up 2-1 in this best of 7 grand finals. He is Reynor from Kaizi Gaming. And yes, Cats, I vote that we just say that this is game 3. We're just going to call it game 3 because this is the 3rd game being played.
You got it. Can't you read though? It says 2-1. Can't you do basic math?
You know what? We all know we are not supposed to do math on stream. All right,
that's very true.
That's a core tenet. You can't ask me to add 2 + 1. All right.
You know, I used to do math on stream, but I haven't in a while. I get math shamed every time I do math on stream. Like even if I get it right, I get math shamed by everyone else.
Yeah, it's true. It's because if you get it right, you make everyone else look bad. But if you get it wrong, you make yourself look bad. And either way, we're not about it.
We're not about it. No math on stream, at least for now, not in the finals. But yeah, we're going to have a CC here on the low ground. Pretty standard stuff here from Clement de Planche in this very exciting finals. Ravi, haven't gotten to cast a finals of this event since the very first season, actually, that I was hired. And I think I casted that one with Benny. And so I am so happy to be here. And this is a treat.
It's a treat to be here with you, Cats. And I think I know you're a deep appreciator of both of these players and the kind of craziness that they can bring, the fun that they can bring, and just the action-packedness that both of them bring. Neither one of these players are really the sit back and defend kind of players. Like both of them are the I'm behind, let me counterattack or do some run bys or drop harassment to get it back in this game. Or they're the I'm ahead, let's get more ahead with drop harassment, run bys, and counterattacks kind of players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, talking about the map, that is one of the concerning things for me, for Clem going into this one. But a reassuring thing for me is that in the Katowice tournament, I watched Clem versus Scarlet on this very map, and Clem was willing to take it to the late game, and he ended up winning an incredible game against Scarlet, someone that we will see more of later in the game, in the day. But that was an incredible series and an incredible game where Clem just played for the late game. And that is oftentimes what you have to do on this map. It is a narrower map. It is a little bit easier to split, and it is kind of like the perfect grounds for a macro-oriented type of Terran, a Terran that just wants to turtle to close all the avenues of attack and play for that Ghost Liberator, sometimes Thor type army.
Yeah, we'll see if Clem's going to kind of adjust his play and go more in that direction this game, or if he is going to do something a little bit more roundabout and less consolidate in that sense. For now, it is going to be... Sorry?
More Clem-like, right?
Yeah, exactly. For now, we're going to just be seeing the semblances of the beginnings of these builds and whatnot as Command Center finishes up in the main base there for Clem, the 3rd CC. We got Stim on the way, and it does look like it's just going to be setting up for a nice, good old macro style from Clem so far.
Yeah, and as much as I was expecting, we didn't see the Banshee in the previous game. I also don't mind that, because he opened Banshee like pretty much the entirety of leading up to today, right? So the fact that he is mixing it up really gives me a lot of hope here for Clem. And as we see, it's going to be a 2-1-1 opening, so it's going to be applying pressure. He's going to be applying pressure with Marines, and still has a couple of Hellions very active out on the map trying to slow down that creep spread. So he's also going to be aware and gathering information on where to drop with those 2 medevacs, right? Like wherever there is space, and trying to contain that creep for the time being.
Yeah. always fun when we get to see those 2-1-1s popping on out and seeing Terran players try to push back Zergs and find little bits and pieces of damage wherever they can, especially when it's, you know, players of this kind of caliber and everything. But Reynor's going to be starting up his lair. He's just going to be trying to get that creep spread going a little bit further forward. Certainly one of the consistent things we've been seeing from Reynor is trying to find those opportune moments to get those lane run buys in. Even in the last game where he ended up losing it, he is just so good at those run buys. And I think that's going to be something also to keep an eye out for, because that is another little quirk of the 2-1-1 opening, is you are basically saying Zerg players should have to respect this with all their units. They really do need to have everything ready to deal with the 2 medevacs with the Marines. But we have seen some Zerg players who are saying, well, I'll just make a few more Lings and maybe see if I can poke around. I love that Clem was able to keep those earlier Hellions and Reapers alive, though, because that makes the counterattack potential a lot harder to make work.
Yeah, there's going to be 4 Banelings already out for Reynor, but I mean, we know how good Clem is at focus firing as well, so Reynor has to be pretty careful with those, has to make sure that surrounds get going and those 4 Banelings all arrive together and not in a line, as these queens are going to be exposed before anything else happens. The 4 Banelings are on the flank, and Clem not paying attention fast enough means that he has to pick up instead of turning his attention to try and fire back. Reynor at the same time creating chaos on the other side of the map, but won't get too much for his efforts, and this beautiful Spore Crawler pre-positioned there already. Oh no! Will make it so that Clem has to go back, but not before losing a medevac.
Yeah, good defense there from Reynor. Again, loses some of the Zerglings in the earlier parts of those trades and stuff, but being able to find the medevac and a handful of those Marines, also finding even just like 1 or 2 workers on the other side of the map, is not a bad start there for Reynor. Just kind of delaying things and making things a little more complicated. Banelings, not going to find an opportunity, but I like that Reynor identified, I'm going to lose these regardless. Let me reset your wall in at least. Like, get some direct, immediate value from those.
Yeah, and just presses X instantly, right? Like, clicks them and presses X instantly on all of those, so he manually detonates them as opposed to trying to explode onto one side or the other. So yeah, you gotta appreciate everything that Reynor does, every little thing, like down to the creep spread, which maybe we can pay more attention to in the next game, just because it is so beautiful to watch how exhaustive his process is. Like, there is creep going everywhere, the queen's barely ahead of the creep, the overlord's barely ahead of the creep, like advancing with it, you know, like just giving himself a perimeter of vision that, like, defensively and at the start of the game, Reynor is just so very clean, and yeah, it continues to shine throughout this mid game, as now he looks to be a little bit aggressive, but will run into tank fire, which is great news for Clem.
Yeah, Baneling's not necessarily what you want to be leading with if you're expecting to encounter an army. Great if you're expecting just a wall in, but at the same time, Clem finding a bit more damage than Reynor was finding on the other side of the map. Then medevac drop doing some good damage. Queen's also going to be caught pretty far off of creep now, and they're actually going to get sniped down 1 by 1.
Yeah, as one of the ones that could have transfused the queen that died was off of creep as well, so it couldn't use its spell. Yeah. And now these Marines on the other side are going to be tended to as well, which means Clem is going to be able to reposition those, get away from those Banelings. And with all of those trades in the last minute, Clem pulls an advantage out of nowhere as he gets to set up to take his 4th base as well.
Fantastically done. Just the multi-prong harassment and also defense back at home. Both of these players kind of testing each other's speed. Clem is actually coming out ahead right now. Baneling focus fire also fantastic there. Keeps the medevac barely alive. Not going to take that lesson, that painful lesson learning twice. This medevac also pretty low on hit points, though. The Queen's going to start focus firing down. It is going to end up falling with all the Marines inside.
That's sad. That was, yeah, the lesson. He is going to end up going back. Just, yeah, for that lesson, getting a refund, or the Rosetta Stone not working or something. I don't know. I don't know how you get refunded for that kind of lesson, but yeah, it's what's gonna happen here, as now Reynor looking to defend on creep with Hydra Bling Bane. Very difficult to push into. I mean, if you're gonna push into with any tools, it's gonna be the tanks, but not like this, as Clem is not gonna be ready now for the siege, and Reynor confident enough to push on forward outside of creep. The Baneling's barely not connecting. That medevac still survives with nearly any HP, so Clem will find the evacuation, but the advantage goes back to Reynor with a beautiful cleanup.
I'm actually just grateful for Clem being able to pick up those units at the last second and avoid the last couple of Banelings, because I think if he had lost all of those remaining Marines, I actually would be afraid that Reynor could just instantly end the game right there. It's already still a bit of a scary moment, as you see a lot of these Marines actually starting to get surrounded by the Lings, but it's pretty far off a creep, and the Sea Chanks are there to cover. But Definitely some painful trades there for Clem after having such a fantastic couple of trades earlier on in the game. He was doing such a great job with the control, but you know, just even a couple of seconds of falling apart there, you see how quickly things can snowball.
Yeah, that was the reveal of that many Hydras as well on the side of Reynor, and Hydras are incredible on defense, and they are obviously going to be the tool that you need to transition into lurkers, but we see that Reynor is committing to the Hydras a little bit more than normal, right? Getting those upgrades as well for the range and whatnot, as he now starts the Hive and the Lurker then, so we will see the transition later into the game from the side of Reynor. Clem is still trying to make things happen in this mid game, but I mean, his tank push already got reset, it already got sent back, so I think if you're Clem, you gotta start looking towards that later stage of the game, as Reynor now is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least for any little pokes and prods that Reynor could try to do right now, Clem is going to actually have a 2-2 advantage upgrade, even with any little harassment he throws on Al. But Reynor should have his own 2-2 finishing up relatively shortly. Clem going to take advantage of the small little window, try and go for a little run by, and finds one of the hatcheries still building. He should be able to pick this off since the Bailing's trailing a lot further behind. Is the Widowmine going to be able to get something big done over here? Ooh, pretty decent connection.
Yeah, it retargets to make sure that it gets a pretty decent connection. So in spite of the best efforts of Reynor, it still manages to get a few links, as a couple of Banelings are actually going to detonate also onto the Widowmine that was already burrowed. So unnecessary losses there from Reynor, but mostly inconsequential at this stage, as we are looking at greater numbers and greater fights to happen when both players start getting maxed. Resources lost pretty similar. Reynor has traded a little bit less cost efficiently, but he has more economy to work with and a bigger bank in his 102 workers against the 88 plus mules of Clem. So this map is going to start getting split Ravs, but we already see Reynor looking to take more bases, and I love that he's taking this forward base, because any minerals that he can take away from Clem in the long run, should this map get split, will make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are definitely going for the long-term game, kind of what you were hinting at before about Hardwire being a solid long-term macro map in a lot of ways and being well set up for this. So I think, yeah, Reynor being able to snack that's the right-hand base and also the left-hand center base. If he's able to get away with that, Clem is definitely going to be kicking himself later on. We'll see if Clem's going to be able to find an opportunity to snag some harassment attacks on either one of those sides, because I feel like both of these players actually have fairly mobile armies, which means that they're both good offensively, but they're also good at reacting defensively to either side of the map.
Yeah, for sure. And Clem is going to be aware that Reynor is taking this base. And actually, there's two medevacs here, but they're empty, unfortunately for him. And of course, this is a very deliberate action here from Reynor, who starts now mining both of those bases. And it puts a lot of pressure on Clem to try and do something about it. Because if we look at Reynor's side of the map, he actually skipped taking one of his bases and is not mining his cornermost base at the left-hand side, so that he actually is looking to just play for the late game, for the ultra late game, where the map is going to get mined out, and he wants to have the advantage over Clem on that regard. So beautiful moves here from the Italian. You love to see the pre-planning, but also it is a more exposed position, so we'll see if Clem can exploit it. Now on the other side, there's going to be a big fight here where Reynor seems to get the better of it, as we see and hear some of those nasty ghost screams.
Yeah, nice evacuation from Clem on the bottom right-hand bases. That was kind of like a defensive move there from Reynor to push back the army from his hatchery, turned into an offensive move, but he does need a little bit of time to remake some of the banelings he was using on that side, because, well, he doesn't actually have a whole lot over at this base anymore. It's still just reinforcing, but a couple of the Vipers getting added into the mix here. Very important that you are able to control these Vipers well, especially with the ghosts out on the map, but he's going to start moving on forward. Vipers throwing out some parasitic bombs on the medevacs.
Yeah, that's very clever. Quick reactions here from Clem, but it's going to cost him a couple of ghosts. I was going to say, but they get picked up in the midst of all things. I mean, Clem is so freaking good. This guy has like 3 brains and four hands or something. Like, that was actually insane.
I am never, ever not mesmerized by how well both of these players can micro. I think they are just so fast-paced. They are so quick. And they are so impressive to watch. We've got some burrowed banelings over there. Oh my god, the changelings all masking the corpse or the little burrowed icons there for those banelings. I wonder if Clem's going to notice that later. He's been scanning to clean up a lot of creep and stuff, but on that left-hand side, I'm not sure. There's not that much creep over there. He may actually miss the scan for that.
Yeah, and the map is getting a little bit smaller here for Clem, who keeps trading not super cost efficiently. And remember, like, while both players are maxed, it is Reynor now with a bank and with a real estate, and he is the one that's abusing and trying to kind of get into this late game with a huge advantage of having mined more of the map. So if we get there, if we get to split map scenario and Reynor has mined one extra base, which is exactly what he's looking to do here, it is a very, very difficult situation for Clem to come back with off of just cost efficiency.
Could not agree more. This is going to get really difficult, and Clem actually segments off a lot of his ghosts to the left-hand side without a whole lot of other supporting units. Funny enough, ghosts versus static defense, actually not the greatest thing. They can't really go for the snipes on the static defense. EMP doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, they really do want some other units there to help buffer for them and actually do a little bit faster DPS. So I actually think that Reynor with the high ground of all those spine calls and everything is going to make things a little bit more annoying. But the lurkers, now those are targets that the ghosts would love to go after.
And yet still, it doesn't seem like from all the snipes that went out, very few actually connected onto those lurkers. So a lot of those end up surviving. I'm not sure what kind of sorcery we're working with here. But yeah, Reynor somehow, some way just manages to focus fire the right clumps of ghosts to interrupt multiple of those snipes. Still, the position will be gained. Snipes even on drones here on the retreat, as Clem will get himself this base, or at least have it evacuated on the side of Reynor, and that is a very, very important base to evacuate. If he can at least mine the base in its current state, he can still play the cost efficiency game in the long run. So good job from Clement Dupont.
Yeah, but man, Cats, you just look at some of these mineral patches. Half of them, some of the mineral patches, you already see the little indentations that they've been mined from quite a bit. It is something that I think Clem is, like you said, going to have to start thinking about, but he's also going to try and knock out this left-hand base, which I think is a very sensible thing to try and go after during all of this. Even getting some missile turrets set up a little bit more further forward to help clean up some of the creep spread and just prevent some of those Vipers from easily maneuvering around. But, oh boy, this is a tough spot to break, and I love that the TCC Shanks are going to be able to delay things over here, but I'd actually say the static defense is buying a lot of time here for Reynor.
It has done fantastic. You are very right to point that out, Ravi. But now Clem finally has the position. He has pushed past it. Those ghosts are actually taking a friendly fire onto from the siege tanks because of the spore. But Reynor once again having to give up this position. This would be a wise perhaps time for Reynor to look to take the other side of the map, but he has been busy producing his own broodlord, so he is looking to push as well as maintain a position now, and this will be a difficult anchor to break as this Link's kind of derp. They could have killed 3 tanks. Instead, they're just gonna run towards the rest of their army, not be intended to at this point in time, obviously, as we can't expect the players to be 100% perfect, but they're pretty damn close, and this is looking extremely good here on this flank for Reynor. These tanks need to evacuate and find room to maneuver, find room to push on the left-hand side. Wherever the broodlords are not, that's where you want your tanks right now. Wherever the broodlords are, you want, well, Thors when they're out, but for the time being, Ghost will do this infestor, very dangerous, but actually whiffs on the fungal growth, Ravi, and with that, it looks like the broodlords should get a little bit pushed back for the time being, but Reynor chooses to stay, and it will cost them.
Quite a few broodlords getting sniped off over there, Cats, and we're seeing that more corruptors going to flood on out. Reynor does have the larger bank in this situation in terms of gas, but his mineral bank has actually been heavily diminished, and now we're going to see even more of these broodlords getting sniped off. The fungal growths on these ghosts are actually massive. They finally delay a handful of these snipes, and the broodlords actually able to get some counter damage in. Wow, I am actually really amazed that Reynor was able to get those fungals off at the end. That really saved his bacon there.
That really saved all of that bacon, and those links, maybe they could have gone in as well if the fight had extended for a little bit longer. Reynor was ready to go in, and he's still ready to go in on the other side. There is, however, a 3-tank contingent here behind this wall of that Clem has set up for himself, so he will be fine behind her in spite of those lurkers kind of poking on forward. And now we are looking at a situation where Clem has been looking very good in the last couple of minutes. He has displaced both of the peripheral bases of Reynor that were pushing onto him and making it very difficult for him to plan forward into the future. As now these broodlords are continuing to get sniped and the links are trying to threaten, but it's not going to be enough. If we look at resources lost, however, Ravi, it is you know, very much in favor of Clement at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Clem has been doing a great job with just being able to manage a lot of that, and now these ghosts are going to be able to start moving on forward, going for an EMP maybe on the infestors, going for the snipes actually, finds 1 snipe, 2 snipes, kills off 2 infestors. Very nicely done over there, and man, these ghosts have been finding so much cost efficiency. Finally gonna end up losing a handful of them as he does overextend a little bit there. Clem able to establish one of the center bases for the first time in this game.
Absolutely beautiful. And the decision making as well, right? Like, it's easier to press the EMP, and I think that most pros would probably press the EMP, but Clem looks at those infestors, he sees they're under 75 energy. If they don't have 75 energy, if they have 65, if they have 70, they can't throw the fungal to stop you. They are no threat, and if there are no units nearby, you might as well just kill them. So every little efficiency that he can get, Clem is going to look for, and even the smallest of decisions between, you know, which spell of the ghost to cast, in spite of which one's simpler to do, Clem will always look for that little extra edge.
DreamHack whittling away at this. Oh my god, that fungal growth on all of these ghosts. Still catches a couple more of them on the retreat over there. Infestors mostly out of energy. I think there's 2 or 3 fungal growths left over. There's one of them. Broodlord's also dealing quite a bit of damage. The DreamHack friendly fire as well, adding in a lot of DPS to the ghosts themselves. It does look like he's going to be able to push things back for now, but man, I do feel like Clem lost a lot of supply of ghosts there.
He sure did. I mean, that is not an easy army to replace, but still, if we look at the resources lost after all of that, it's Clem actually accruing an advantage. Last time we checked, it was 10k, now it's 13. So all in all, yeah, that looks pretty bad for Clem. And in a way, Reynor does have an opening because he can replenish his army in whatever he wants a little bit quicker. The problem for him is he used a lot of energy on those infestors, so that is not going to be present. And he has to make something happen while Clem doesn't have those goes back up. Because once he does, once Clem reestablishes kind of like that very intimidating army that we just saw him lose, he is just going to have gained a further advantage on Reynor off of that engage.
Yeah, that's very true. We're already seeing that Reynor's not really been able to capitalize on a lot of that time, and during this, we're seeing...
He just sniped Lynx. I love it.
Yeah. Whatever cost efficiency you can find, I guess, but we're seeing some of the ghost snipes actually getting canceled over here. More of those fungals coming on out, but snipes come off, picking off those infestors, picking off the lurkers. Broodlord's going to be getting into an awkward angle over here.
Do
they have a retreat path?
Imagine if he didn't snipe those Lynx.
Yeah.
That would have been 2 or 3 extra Broodlords. So, you know, sometimes, yeah, there is a thing as too much, as trying too hard. And it seems like, yeah, in that instance, Clem could have maybe getting a little bit more.
All the ghosts,
but it doesn't matter. This is still looking, I was going to say decent for Clem, but now with the lingering reinforcements, the Thors are going to get displaced as well. And 2 managed to get saved, but Clem has to go back to the safety of that PF.
Yeah, I mean, the PF is going to provide a lot of safety there. But again, like the entire ghost count also getting a reset there. Yes, all the Broodlords, or most of the Broodlords, actually end up getting sniped off as well. But I will say, you know, I feel like Reynor has been able to at least keep some kind of degree of, you know, the number of ghosts he's been able to keep a little bit better under control. Now he has to deal with the number of Thors that are out on the map. That's going to be a whole separate side of problems on top of the ghost count being replenished. But sniping off all those workers, kind of nice, but also now Clem's going to replenish it with army supply.
Yeah, and Clem has been, Reynor has been very smart as far as like what army supply he's replenishing with, because he is going back to the basics. I mean, he's going back to the mid-game here. He's making Lynx and Hydras because he is mostly contending now with Thors and Ghosts, right? Neither of those particularly effective at dealing with this sort of unit in great numbers. So Reynor doing a good job. However, Clem also adapting, is now adding Hellbats to his mix of all things.
Hellbats are going to be a nice addition. We also see a Nidus Storm on the way for Reynor, but I think honestly right now, Cats, the biggest concern I have for Clem is that it's not a problem yet, but his gas bank is a lot lower. And if you think about the core units that he's been making, he's pumping out more Siege Tanks, he's pumping out more Ghosts, and he's been making a lot of Thors. These are all very gas-intensive units. He can still get away with it for now, but if he is not able to reestablish, say, these center bases, there is going to be a turning point where, well, things may actually start becoming more difficult economically for Clem.
Yeah, these lurkers are going to continue to poke here at the Ghosts as they try to push on forward. This tank will get caught in the middle of the map as the Lynx now are looking to trade. Seeing as there's Hellbats, seeing as they are accounted for, Reynor might want to look to trade them out, but instead he does have 24 more Circlings on the way. So I don't know how to feel about this from Reynor. If he's not going to turn those to Banelings, he might do well to at least use some of those on the counter offense, as now the Nidus is trying to go into the main base. That could be absolutely deadly. If we can get lurkers there, then the production of Clem can be one of the avenues in which Reynor can end up closing this game. And we hear the yell, meow, says the Nidus. And now it's going to start unloading in the main of Clem, presumably. At least nothing out yet. Okay.
Yeah, looks like he's actually not going to bother unloading anything right now. He's just content with the damage he's getting done over at this location. Draws the entire army out of position over to here, which in some ways should make it a lot easier to defend that right-hand side base, as there's not that much army on that side. So Reynor is able to, I guess, hopefully get some mining up on that side.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so now it's going to be 3 lurkers. That is annoying, but it's not, it's not game ending. And Reynor's just going to split him just to create further chaos, basically, to force additional scans and to force the attention of Clem elsewhere while he tries to make stuff happen. Once CC goes down there in our screens, as Reynor continues to push back Clem. Clem really needs to reclaim the right side of the map. Right now, I don't know that he can basically go for the left and the right both. So he has to make a decision right now. He's going to go for the left-hand side just because his army is already here. And there is 2 bases here to take from Clem, this one being the more important one.
Yeah, a little bit of a base trade, but in a different sense. Clem able to snipe off that base on the left-hand side, but that also means that Reynor is able to establish properly the right-hand side base. So a little tit for tat there. At the end of the day, Clem also did end up losing that low ground base. Did they actually have? No, didn't have any gas left over on it, just a few mineral patches.
Yeah, I mean, this Nidus at any point could be deadly, Ravi, right?
Yeah.
Like, the first one was a bluff from Reynor. He was hoping that Clem would actually look at it and he would react to it. It was the first one of the game, and then he could do stuff while a lot of the army is committed from Clem. But if one of these Nidus is actually tended to from Reynor, if it's accounted for it going up and it's loaded with multiple lurkers, then goodbye to all of your production facilities if you're Clem, and that could be absolutely nasty, and that could make it that would make it so that your 8k bank matters not at all if you can't produce from those unit producing facilities, right? So again, this Nidus kind of not being tended to is nice.
I mean, these are some amazing fungal growth coming out here from Reynor, but the snipes coming on off as well. There is one major concern I have right now, Cats, and that's that even before they were like dropping on supply from these fights, it's that Clem has 50 more army supply than Reynor, because he's just been losing workers and replenishing them with army supply. And you can see that he is kind of demolishing the little army that Reynor did have out on the map. He's going to be able to snipe off this base. The Nidus room does get cleaned up back at home, and Reynor, he needs some time to actually spend a bit of that bank and replenish the army supply, but whatever he's replenishing with, it's actually just going to be a smaller army.
Yeah, and we talked about going for the right or the left-hand side. I always prefer the right-hand side here because it has a little bit more resources to mine, and because already your left-hand side of your Clem has already been weakened so much, you don't have a triangle third there anymore. So it's kind of a little bit more difficult to re-establish, right? If we look at units at resources lost, now it's over 20k on the side of Clem. So he is plenty fine with this map split scenarios. However, these Thors have been there for a while and now finally looking to get punished, but on the high ground now, the rest of the army of Clem has repositioned. The Thors will actually get repositioned themselves to the back, but the Ghosts have to run away from those Banelings. Banelings not super effective against Thors. I believe you need something like 6 or against Ghosts, you need something like 6 to take down one Ghost down. But still, they're very clumped up units because they're so thin, so small.
All of the Baneling's been used up over there now, and Reynor is actually not replenishing the Baneling count at the moment. He's adding on some more Lings. He's adding on a lot more Lurkers. That's 27 Lurkers right now, Cats. 27 Lurkers. This is, Reynor's putting a lot of eggs into the Lurker basket right now. Let's put it that way.
Oh, he sure is. That is 27 Lurkers that are going to make their way into this base from Clem. You can never snipe that many Lurkers, not all at once. And without tanks, it's going to be very difficult for Clem to displace. That's going to have to be work over time here. But at the same time, those are very expensive units that Reynor has to babysit to some degree. And now Clem repositioning to look for the angles where not all of the Lurkers are going at once, basically. If you just click snipe onto all of the Lurkers, you're never going to fire. There's just too many of them. But if you look for an angle where only the front forward-facing Lurkers are firing, exactly like Clem has been doing, then it's much more difficult. Now that the Lurkers are in single fine line, the tanks have to come in handy. The Ghosts can no longer accomplish the job until the Lurker number has thinned down.
Man, the EMP on the Infestors has really made it more difficult for Reynor to do a whole lot with this. There's a nice storm coming on out. The Viper also managed to yoink a single siege tank, but after that, it has been very difficult for a whole lot to happen. And now the Ghosts actually, it looks like they've picked off enough of the lurkers that they can actually start taking little trades over here. I love what Clem is doing. He's using the hit points of the orbital command to buy time. So every single time the lurkers attack the orbital command when it was landed, he was actually going in with the Ghosts. But these fungal growths on the Ghosts isn't going to be able to continue to lock them down. These are some pretty expensive losses. Clem does not have a gas bank anymore. Loses quite a few of those Ghosts. He's down to 14. Still a healthy-ish number right now. Still adding on a few more. But man, those were expensive losses for both sides. Neither one of these players really have a massive bank outside of Clem's mineral bank.
Yeah, and that is the thing. I mean, Reynor is a 143 supply, and when you see that many infestors on the side of Clem, you have to kind of smile a little bit because you know that your opponent has a great disparity in terms of mineral and gas that they are trying to overcome, and that is the only reason you would want to make this many infestors against not just something like pure mech, pure Thor army, right? So, I mean, this is not the army composition that Reynor wants. He is down in supply by 50, and he is broke as a joke. With now 55 workers to work with, like he has been remaking some of those, but Clem now definitely in a strong position. Reynor has to make something happen.
Oh, finds 5 of these Ghosts, snipes off 4 of them, almost gets the 5th, doesn't quite get it, but that is a very nice snag. Even just finding some more fungal growths on these units. I mean, I gotta say, Infestor's not necessarily the unit that a lot of the Zerg players want, but Reynor is doing a great job making this happen.
Yeah, there's no anti-air either, so that medevac could give Clem a heads up. You could load up a couple of Ghosts, look for the flank, and then EMP onto those infestors a la Protoss with War Prism High Templars, right? It's a very uncommon situation. Usually the Zerg has some sort of anti-air, but right now there's like one Hydralisk, so really medevacs are kind of uncontested and it makes that play possible should Clem want to go for it, should he identify that it's a possibility. Regardless, he is in an incredible position right now, still 3k to work with in the bank. And he doesn't need to push the issue. It's all up to Reynor to break him. He's going to say, come at me, and it's going to be extremely difficult for the Italian.
Yeah, we are at the point now where there's only 8 lurkers left over. Nyal was showing us that there are some corruptors coming out onto the map, and I don't even think that Reynor has the bank right now to make those 7 corruptors all into broodlords. So this is going to be a tough situation for Reynor. Can he make some absolute miracles happen with the few bit of resources that he does have left? I mean, it's not like he doesn't have tools available at his disposal that can take miraculously good fights, but he really needs to be able to find some magic here. And that army for Clem, it's almost double the army supply. Reynor is taking fights with basically half the army size.
Exactly, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, there are Broodlords on the way. If there's a unit that's going to do it, it's going to be Broodlords in tandem with his infestors. The first Viper in a while that I've seen is now out for Reynor as Clem tries to make the game and the map a little bit smaller for Reynor. It's unnecessary for the most part, I think, Ravi. I think that Clem could just sit back and relax and kind of just let Reynor come at him, but he wants to continue to apply the pressure. He doesn't necessarily know that he is nearly 30,000 supply or 30,000 resources ahead in terms of cost efficiency. So he is going to continue to push the issue. Now 3 more Ghosts at a time on the way, but there's only 3 Thors to work with. So, you know, strategy for Reynor, if you have God Vision, you're looking for Neuroparasites onto those Ghosts, onto those Thors. Maybe a Neuroparasite onto the Ghost and the MP in the Ghost would be ideal, but then those Broodlords have to do a lot of work, and the Fungal has to protect you from the snipes. It's a near impossible ask.
I want to just mention there is roughly 800 gas left over here for Reynor to mine and a 1,600 gas left over for Clem to mine on the right-hand side base. So every unit that goes down is going to be big. These fungal growths are absolutely massive on top of the friendly fire from these siege tanks. These fungal growths are absolutely insane, but the lurker's also getting sniped off during all this. Is this actually going to be enough for Reynor to hold on? He's pushing him back. That's almost everything down. But is there just barely enough ghosts over here to pull on through?
Jesus. I mean, Reynor is ahead in supply right now. This was a little bit of a throw from Clem, but it might still be enough, right? Like, it is so close. Now there's 2 remaining Thors. Imagine 2 neural parasites right now onto those Thors, Ravi. All of a sudden, this Broodlord is kind of king. So it was incredibly close, but Reynor will have to concede at the end there. Clem almost throwing in that final fight. That was an incredibly good fight for Reynor because Clem gave him the choke with his own tanks for those fungals to happen. And yeah, I mean, that was way too good for Reynor. It got incredibly close for no reason. But yeah, Clem manages to close it out. It's going to be a 2-2 series, all tied up.
Wow, really incredible games, guys. I know that we are going to have a break coming on up in just a moment's time, but excited to have a tied up series yet again here, Cats. Excited that we're getting a closer series. It's not going to be a repeat of yesterday with a one-sided kind of 3-0 or something. So, guys, after a short break, we'll resume and conclude the grand finals here of Clem versus Reynor.
It is grand finals time, and yeah, we're all tied 2-2. I am Katz, joined by my good friend Robbie, and this is gonna be Berlingrad between both of these beasts who have been putting on a show.
It has been quite the show. I also really appreciate that the way that you say it sometimes makes it almost sound like your voice is cracking when you say my name. And people who don't have the context on why you say it that way are probably very confused.
Yeah, without the context, they might think that I am teasing you, but I am actually trying my best to pronounce it by your guidelines.
Yeah.
It is Ravi, like Scooby-Doo would say it.
Yeah, well, it's if Scooby-Doo was saying lovey, then
Lovey.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I love that every time you say it, it's like you get in a character for a few seconds. Like, all right, I am Scooby-Doo.
I do. Yeah, I definitely turn into Scooby-Doo in my head whenever I.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the commitment, similar to the commitment that these two players have been showing to trying to take this series in that last game, trying to take another map. Every little inch that they were fighting for are very, very hard fought. We're going to be starting the next map down here in the bottom right-hand side. Top the red Zerg player from KaiZ Gaming. He is Reynor.
And in the top left-hand side, evening out the series, coming initially from a disadvantage. This is usually his home turf, his tournament, perhaps the most successful player ever in this European regionals. It is Clem for Team Liquid.
I think the only player who maybe has a little bit more of a claim to fame for success in the European region would be Cyril. And that's just because I feel like you have to count a little bit of the good old WCS days where it became a meme or a joke of, cool, the semifinals have finished up. That was the end of our tournament, guys. Now we get to watch a celebration show match of someone getting destroyed by Cyril. But, you know, longer those gone are those days. I feel like, as we have seen, Cyril is, you know, got some competition these days. And one of those competitors is going for a faster spawning pool there, Cats.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of this from Reynor up against Hero Marine, but Clem has been pretty good about scouting, and once again, he is going to send the SCV out, so shouldn't be too much of any trouble. And yeah, I agree, like in WCS, obviously, 2018, you know, Cyril and Matcha, he won pretty much everything. But EPT, since this era began, I think Clem has seen so much success in this particular tournament, right? And it just seems to flow with him. It just seems to do well with him, to sit well with him, and he is not wanting to let go of that. So going up against a master of flow and in his own definitions, I love hearing Reynor talk in interviews. Like he's always describing how he's, you know, vibing and flowing. And I'm like, oh my God, you're speaking my language. And yeah, I mean, you can really tell in the game that he's a very reactive, very Sergi by nature Zerg player, right? Like, and it is so amazing to watch both of these players really kind of just how good they are at the craft.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to quickly note that in the series that they played yesterday, you did a really great breakdown of the build order and everything that Reynor went for with the pool first. It was on Berlingrad. This is Berlingrad again. So I think that there's definitely some mind games coming out between both these players. You see that Reynor, in fact, basically just commits to 2 links. He doesn't do anything hyper aggressive with it. And there's also that SCV scout you were talking about that Clem goes for. That game, I have no doubt, was on both of their minds a little bit when these builders are shaped up.
1,000,000%. And thanks for bringing my attention to that as well, because it's very clear from the stance of the Reaper, right, that it stayed back, that it respected the possibility of Reynor having gone for that 15 pool that he showed against Hero Marine. Before moving out, he even clears one of the corners there and makes sure that there isn't any sneaky circling. So now it's going to get greeted on the other side by a Queen. Will manage to spot the forward third here at the triangle, Clem that is. But yeah, absolutely, both players really playing off of their reputation and their former gameplay here in recent history.
Well, for now, though, we will see kind of a fast medevac coming on out there for Clem. He's got a handful of Marines, got a handful of these Hellions, getting out the second medevac. But I mean, this isn't like a 2-on-1 or anything, so he is just going to be able to get a little bit aggressive with some of these early game units alongside the Reaper that's been poking around and prodding. But Cats, how are you kind of feeling about how just overall Reynor's early game defense against like the little bits of aggression that Clem has done, you know, whether it be like the 2-on-1 and everything else? Feels like Reynor's had a pretty solid defense overall, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yesterday it was perfect pretty much. Today it's been a little bit mixed, but by anyone else's standards, I think he's handled them as well as you would expect anyone to handle Clem's aggression. At the same time, Clem is one of the best aggressive players in the world, and he has found enough success to, you know, not be in a position where you're just dead and letting the Zerg get away with everything. So it's been a nice dance to watch. Yeah,
for sure. We also have a Liberator popping on out as well. That's going to be able to add in some additional pressure. The medevac just joining forces with the Marines to snipe off as many overlords as possible, forcing Reynor to make maybe a few more than he really wants to right now. Lane counterattack trying to happen, so we're already seeing that there's a lot of stuff happening on multiple sides of the map. Command Center, SCV getting picked off multiple times there. That's 2 SCVs down, but the Hellions end up having to retreat all the way back home just to help deal with these counterattacking Lings, which buys Reynor time to get up additional creep spread, to get up everything else. But I love that during all this, Clem actually still finds the time with the Marines to continue poking forward and make sure that not all the Queens are just on the front line spreading creep.
Yes, at the same time, he didn't go into the main, right, because of the attention that was being pulled towards his wall-off. So, and now the medevac has taken enough damage from the Queens on the low ground that we talked about, the longevity of the staying power that Clem has with that poke, it's pretty much gone. So he has to be extremely careful. I'm surprised that he's even here as opposed to going back to repair that medevac and get back out there. But now with the Hellions out here, maybe he will look for that.
Yeah. Not going to find a whole lot more outside of a couple of these creep tumors that are just freshly being planted. So snipes off 1 or 2 of them. But medevac getting ready to move on in. The Queens, oh, they got eye on the prize there. They are looking for that medevac, and Clem just backs off. Knows he's not going to be able to get a whole lot more done. And yeah, which basically, he's not entirely pulling back, but he is definitely playing a lot safer on the south side of the map. And I would say using it as like a zoning tool. He knows that Reynor has to keep the Queens over there right now because the medevac is there.
Yeah, and he is well outside of creep as well. That is like Clem, that is. So if there is units that aren't Queens, like any other unit that, you know, can move out of creep, then he can still use the medevac defensively because they pose no threat, right? At this point, the only unit that shoots up, like for example, this Lynx, like perfect example. So the medevac just picks up and gets away. Whereas if it was Queens getting out of creep or near creep, then the medevac is in great peril. So now Clem is gonna load up or load off his additional 2 medevacs and look for some damage here, but not gonna be able to find it. All of the Queens are conglomerated here in this low ground, and he's gonna just have to back away and maybe clear some creep towards the middle.
Yeah, you can see those Queens eyeing for that low health medevac still. They are going to be trying to rotate around, protecting the little baby creep tumors that they've been planting down across the screen. But Clem doing a nice job just preventing the creep spread on this left-hand side, just below the third base. Wherever the Terran player is cleaning up the creep is oftentimes where the big pushes usually end up coming from. So Clem cleaning up like this angle is going to make things a bit interesting because it's not through that center side, right? That usually means that Clem is going to basically be forced to probably push along that bottom side, which is kind of an awkward angle.
Yeah, it's an awkward angle, but it does offer him a lot of high grounds, and it offers him the rocks. That is why Reynor is focusing so much of his attention on breaking those rocks with the Zerglings, because siege tanks on that position can be extremely annoying, and that is exactly what Clem is going for. So not a very Clem-like maneuver to be playing like he is playing this game, but it is a very good tactic on a map like this, a map that is very short, to go for a very strong 2 or 3 base push. We're seeing a 3 base push with a 4th CC on the way already. But yeah, we expect that Clem will move out towards this left-hand side of the map in the short vicinity of time here.
Really solid defense there from Clem. Reynor was clearly eyeing around, saying, okay, can I go for a surround? Can I go for a counterattack? Clem is just prepared at every single angle, every single front, has the Hellions and the Hellbats actually ready back at his third base with a siege tank and with another wall getting put on up. Lings and Baneling's going to try and run in to catch these Marines. He does manage to find some of the medevacs with the Hydras. He's going to be able to force a lift up over there for Clem, but I think Clem mostly just trading out for all those Lings and everything. He's probably not too unhappy with it.
Yeah, it is actually so difficult to load into so many units, into so many medevacs. Like, it is, you know, it is kind of underrated how difficult it is. So I can't blame Reynor even for going for that with the slow Banelings and whatever, because it is very likely that your opponent kind of jumps up in that process. But Clem manages to do it, probably with good shift clicking around and good moving of the medevacs to allow for all the Marines to get inside. And it makes it so that none of the Banelings connect. And he was also very careful, right? Like, he didn't wait until the last possible second because he knows there's going to be a little bit of a jam there getting into the public transportation if you're a Marine.
Indeed. Well, we're going to see Clem start to poke his way forward onto creep. He needs to go for some scans to clean up some of these creep tumors. Wait a little bit of time for that creep to recede, but he's going to try and open up this little avenue through the center. But again, this is going to be the area where there was a lot of creep that wasn't cleaned up from earlier on. It's going to take some time for that to happen. This is allowing Reynor some time to go for counterattacks. He's setting up a counterattack on that south side of the map, able to cancel the 4th base from turning into a planted. We're just Baneling's connecting on a lot of these Marines. Very efficient trades there for Reynor, even though he's off of creep.
Yeah, it's amazing how we've gone through eras of StarCraft 2 where before we used to celebrate how good the splits were. Now we celebrate whenever the Banelings connect because it's a rarity, especially when it comes to players like Clem, right? It's so difficult to find him not paying attention, not splitting, and not getting away from those Banelings, as we see here on screen. He is going to do exactly that, and with that, the momentum is going to turn in his favor. And off of creep, overextended are the Hydra, so Clem has an opportunity to continue to push. The Stim is going to wear off, however, which means he will have to commit another Stim. Should he want to go for it? One Baneling on the back will not end up connecting, as only 2 at the front will have to be a little bit shy for the time being. There are now 3 banelings, but they are kind of spread, and now make it a million banelings as they flank. But they have to turn a corner, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Clem knows it, and so he's gonna run past his tank and back off of creep. Good trades here from the Frenchman.
The Frenchman trying so hard to make this kind of push attack and work. He's actually so close to making some big damage happen. 7 banelings out of the map right now. Strikes at a handful of them are going to be falling over here as they're trying to trickle in one by one. 6 more banelings just finished on up, but Clem is here right now. Focus firing down the banelings before they can connect. One by one, they all go down, and so does Reynor. He gets toppled, and Clem takes his 3rd game in a row. Oh my God, this man is on such a momentum streak.
That is I don't know if we're doing Juniper, it may not make sense, but my God, the way that he clicked on those banelings there, like a lot of the time, we're like, oh, like, did you see that
Yeah.
clicking on the banelings? And a lot of the time it's just the banelings kind of funneling into fire. But here, there was so much stuff going on, so many units of so many different sizes, and Clem still managed to pick off multiple banelings with speed on creep before any of them could connect, like you could say, and that grants him the game-ending fight there. So amazing job from him, and he is gonna take the lead. No one expected this, I think, Ravi. I think you expected this most of all of us, but I mean, did you see Clem taking the lead here? It's looking like he could close it out here.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. I feel like he is actually at that point where, yeah, he very well could take the lead, because think about it. The score right now is 3-2. That makes it look like it is a very close series. And I think some of these games have been very close. It's not just like Clem is one-sidedly winning every single game or anything. But in reality, Reynor started up 1-0 and he got 1 map win. And that 1 map win was Pride of Altaris, the map that under very few circumstances should Zergs be losing to a Terran player on. In a sense, I would say in terms of like even-ish games, like Clem has been winning most of them. So I think this, in a lot of ways, is actually looking really bad for Reynor just in terms of momentum. Like, he's lost 3 games in a row on the more even maps. Granted, we'll say Clem, Curious Minds, cool. Terran player's supposed to win that map probably, but this is tough. This is literally do or die moment now for Reynor going into this next map.
Yeah, and Pride of Altaris also looked close, right? Is the scary thing as well. Now, this is a map where, it's difficult to call because it is, I think, by layout, like a good Terran map for defense. But at the same time, it's Clem, so he is very likely to want to go on offense. And on defense for the Zerg, it's not particularly bad either, right? So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But this is getting to the wire. This is looking like Clem might do it, and this is looking like the Windows Gambit also didn't pay off from Reynor earlier as well, right? Like,
yeah.
Now maybe Clem should get should be like, hey, Windows update.
Well, actually, funny enough, it is not Clem that's asking for extra time. It's actually Reynor asking for a couple of minutes, just seeing whether or not he can get that. But don't worry, guys, we're not just talk crafting. Trust me, Cats and I want to go into the next game sooner rather than later, because I think both of us are amped up by this series. We are not the ones asking for delays here, but I think Reynor probably wants a few minutes just to clear his head.
He's shaking.
Get ready for this next game.
I mean, this is insane. He's shaking. I really hope that he doesn't, like, open the stream and chat and kind of gets in his own head and simmers, because he asked for 5 minutes in particular, right? So he is gonna have time to kind of just sit there and chill. And Clem asked directly to Reynor, like, what's wrong, right? And Reynor said, I just want 5 minutes. So he really just wants to clear his head. There's no Windows update. There's no, he doesn't want to go outside and take a breather or grab a coffee or anything of that sort. He just wants to reset mentally and get into a better space. So yeah, I mean, we'll see if that helps him. Clem gave him the 5 minutes. He said, no problem. And our Observer A admin said 3 minutes from now. So really putting on the pressure.
Yeah, man, it almost makes you wonder what happens if Reynor didn't Windows update and he kept the momentum himself. What if he never Windows updated, Cats? Would he be up in the series right now?
Yeah, maybe so, right? Like, and yeah, the ultimate mind game here, if you're Clem, is wait for Reynor to get back and then be like, Windows update,
When I got the same update you did, it just hit me a little later. Yeah, I think Clem is the one who, if anyone, is probably going to benefit the most from just the game starting up sooner rather than later. Though I do think Clem is that player that he's feeling hot, like, keep going. I think he's going to definitely prefer that. So I imagine Clem is going to be ready to move into the next game as soon as it's ready to go. But man, I think the map that you were talking about, like this next map and everything, is Glittering Ashes, for those who did miss out on that. This is going to be match point right now. Clem, he's been the champion for the European region like so many times now, ever since the EPT circuit started. It was, I remember like so vividly too, Cats. It was 2020. It was the rise of Clem. Clem actually wasn't anywhere close to the level of dominance that he had in the European scene in 2019 and before. It was actually 2020 when everything went online. That was the season where every single season we're like, Clem, is this the season? Is this the season? Is he going to start rising to the ranks of Reynor and Cyril? It's like, no, season 1, no, season 2, season 3, finally lands that victory. And then you were talking about this. He ends up winning like the following 2 seasons as well of 2021. It's like 3 seasons in a row. It's almost insane to think Clem was not that level of dominance like 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of how all 3 of the triumvirate or whatever they're called have popped up into the scene, right? Like Cyril in 2017, peaking in 2018, then Reynor popping in somewhere along those lines in 2018 to peak in 2019, and then Clem to do the same in 2020. And ever since, we've had, like all of them kind of biting for that number 1 position, and oftentimes trading places like as far as like points, a Lego, like results. In general, it's always been highly contested, with maybe Cyril having a small edge over the other 2. But I mean, these 2 are and have not been slouches by any means. And Clem has actually been the most successful out of the 3 when it comes to the European Championship. As we are now ready to go, Ravs, and like you said, it is match point.
All right, match point, the do or die moment. Is Clem going to be able to retake his crown as the European champion, his home turf, his home region here, his home tournament, where he's been able to crown himself champion more times than pretty much anyone else in the region? Or is Reynor finally going to claim his first victory here since 2020? It's unheard of. It's crazy to think about, but Reynor has not won since season 2 of 2020. He wants that extra victory here, but he's gonna have to beat this man up in the top right hand side of Glittering Ashes, the blue Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem.
And in the bottom left hand side, it is the man for Kaisi, the red Zerg player. Give him your energy. It's now him who needs it. It's Reynor.
Cats, scared, man. I see so many baguettes in the chat right now. I see so many people cheering with those baguettes. I know those baguettes are in favor of Clem, and he's got so much momentum riding in his favor. How does this next game go? I think one of the key things that Reynor can probably feel a little comfortable with is that even though Clem has been winning all 3 last games, none of them have been extremely one-sided. None of them have just been Clem dominating the game. It's all been very close.
It has been extremely close. It has been a very contested series, a very contested finals, and that is exactly what we want here. But yeah, there are so many baguettes, and yeah, Ravi, like that is the kind of thing that, I mean, to me, that kind of stuff that just shakes me. Like, I think that Reynor is also an energy-driven, a crowd-driven type of person as well. So that is why I'm saying, like, I hope for his sake that he didn't peek into the chat, just to see that many baguettes. There's no pastas whatsoever, right? Like, no spam, no copy this pasta to help Reynor or something like that. There's none of that. Like, it's all baguettes.
Saying a baguette, isn't it also a pasta? If everyone's pasting baguettes, isn't that in and of itself a pasta, though, Cats?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe that's how he has to see it as well, right? Or maybe the baguette is just the side dish to the pasta. I don't know. He has to find a way to interpret this in a way where it doesn't harm him emotionally, because he really needs this and he really wants this, right? Like, as far as Reynor is concerned, as the Reaper will make its way into the natural expansion, as far as Reynor is concerned, a lot of what his claim is here in the European region, and for the last few years, you talk about the best players in the world, you have to put him in the conversation. But when you talk about the greatest of all time, he just doesn't make it. He hasn't had those periods of dominance like Cyril has had. And that is the talk that he needs and he wants to get started. And to some degree, perhaps he deserves to get started, but he needs to start winning these events at home first, and he needs to get those streaks going for himself, because Yeah, at any given point in time during the last 3 years, who's the best player in the world? If you say Reynor, if you pick Reynor, you're probably not far off. You're probably oftentimes right. But he wants more than that. He wants a legacy that is, perfect.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that is effectively the next step for Reynor in terms of like his growth as, a brand of player. But I think that, like you were saying, being able to win these events in like the European region, one of the most competitive regions in the world for StarCraft right now, this is the kind of thing that builds momentum, something we've been talking a lot about today. It builds momentum into Valencia. It builds momentum into you having a strong showing, a strong performance over there. That's going to be only like a month or so away now. So Reynor would love to be able to get a bit of that momentum on his side. Start strong with this year. Start 2022 on a good note. We'll see if he can make this happen over here. So far, we're going to be seeing these build orders start to shape on up. We do see that Clem going for the fast third CC yet again. Gets up the 2-1-1 setup as well as have that fast stim and everything as he continues to poke around. But I think one thing I've really, really liked from Clem, and we've already seen how impactful it can be sometimes, keeping the Hellions and the Reaper alive. He's not going for the suicide mission dives to try and pick off some extra drones. Even when he feels like there might be an opportunity, you kind of see him think about it for a moment. But he always ends up pulling back, and I love it because he has been able to use those so effectively to prevent the run-bys at his third base.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pastas for Clem are just better. Like the spam this Clem to help out Clem. Like that's just, that's just too good to not copy paste.
Yeah.
This is rough, man. But yeah, let's see what Reynor can do here. I mean, the Hellions do a good job here of denying the creep spread from Reynor, but Reynor has been one of the best, if not the very best player at spreading creep spread, again, very methodically. Like, let's really look to appreciate this, right? Like, the Overlord moves with the creep, the Queen's always in front. The Overlord doesn't need to be there, okay? Like, if you're not playing at Reynor's level, you don't have the actions to do that, but if you are playing at Reynor's level, there's always an Overlord right in front of creep, just so that it gives you that extra forward vision without exposing itself, where it can still get protected by the Queens. And this is the type of detail and just type of attention that Reynor can put to every one of his units and every one of his creep tumors and really give them love in the early game. But is that going to be enough? I mean, he has successfully spread creep past his ramp at every which angle, but now it's Clem who's going to look to apply some pressure for the first time with his Marines.
Power of those 2-1-1s, man. Well, Creep Tumor does manage to finish over there. That's actually a really nice win for Reynor, just being able to let that Creep Tumor finish, and now the Queens are here to help defend it as well. So angle on the north side looking strong here for Reynor. He's got a lot of energy available also for some transfuses, which is going to be a key component. So far, Clem not able to find too much with his 2-1-1 opening, and I think a lot of the time it's not necessarily that you find a ton, but you at least expect to clean up some of the creep spread, and then the third and fourth medevacs are what really actually start driving the deal home and kind of saying, okay, I'm starting to find a little bit more value with this.
Yeah, I already love the setup as well from Clem defensively, already dropping that bunker and making it into an indentation with the supply depots as well. It is not very exposed. There's very little surface area. About like 35% of the bunker can get surrounded, quote unquote surrounded, I guess, not really surrounded by Zerglings. So, it's a good setup to start here for Clem defensively. And if you're Reynor, one of your biggest strengths is those run-bys. One of your biggest strengths is creating chaos on the other side of the map. So he has to scout this, he has to spot this, and he also has to play a game of restraint, because if he plays to his comfort zone to outdo his opponent and he starts running into tanks and bunkers, that could be his undoing too.
Yeah, it's funny. Both of these players have actually been overly aggressive to their undoing before in the past. There's been character growth we've seen from both of them over the course of their careers. Oh my God. Beautiful snipe off over there from Clem. Snipes off a single Bailey and picks up in the medevac just so fast. Get to see, even though I would say like this has been kind of a calm game where there's been little pokes and prods from both these players, overall they're both playing extremely fast and just really trying to find any little window of opportunity. It's just that both of them are doing such a good job to not really provide any openings right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's a lot easier for the Terran at this stage to trade efficiently because obviously like there is the marine firepower and the range that you're working with. But the fact that Reynor is still gaining space and is still gaining grounds for relatively cheap is admirable. If we look at the resources lost, Reynor has only lost 500. Clem has only lost 1 unit, but it is always up to Clem to lose units basically, right? Or not lose units. So props to both of them for the job that they have been able to accomplish so far. And let's see what they are able to accomplish further, as the creep threat has been insane for Reynor. Clem now looking to mitigate on some fronts here, and we see that the creep has receded on this particular side, so that is something that Clem could take note of for later in the game if he wants to go for a push in this area.
I think that's definitely going to be something on his mind. He's continuing to try and do little bits of harassment and stuff, but still getting up all of his production. Oh, going to go for the drop behind this middle line over here. Reynor a little slower to react to this, so the Marines are all going to be able to unload. Queen's coming back to try and whittle away at this, but that also means that there's fewer Queens and other units on the front lines, so Clem is actually able to clean up some more of that creep on the front lines, and Siege Tanks a little bit further forward. Just, yeah, buying himself a little bit more space to get closer and closer to those hatcheries, Cats.
Yeah, and right now he kind of wants to too. He is near maxed, and he just saw Reynor transition into a hive. So more likely than not, there's going to be lurkers coming out. So very early into this game, 9 minutes in, both players are at the max supply mark. Both players with 2-2 in the works, but Clem's about to finish. So he's looking to hit that timing clean. He's looking to use these tanks on the high ground here, and he's looking to set up a push, like you said, just little by little, cutting into Reynor's territory that he has accrued for himself in all of this time by just pushing creep slowly and trying to make something happen. Reynor, on the other hand, looking for a big counterattack. He's going to run into a PF. That is a lot of circlings. They're going to get this around, and that is perfect. That is no any room left for those SCVs to repair, as Clem will try to capitalize on the other side, but will be met by a lot of Queens as well as a few Banelings. This planetary fortress will go down, and that is a massive success for Reynor to start this game. And it is really just getting started 9 minutes in, right? Like, it's the first relevant exchange.
Yeah, there's barely any other units that have actually gone down. We're starting to see Clem. God, look at the depth of these siege tanks. This is actually absurd. We're starting to see that Reynor wants to try and come in from a flank, but it's like flanking the other side of the map. It is insane. Like, this is actually just taking up multiple screens to even show, even while zoomed out. So Reynor instead decides, okay, I'm going to wait back with those lings. In Banelinks, he's going to see if he's either going to go for the counterattack or go for the flank. It looks like he's coming in for the flank.
Yeah, he's going to go. A lot of the tanks in the back are somewhat exposed, so the Lynx are going to do a nice job of getting on top of those. And now with the lurkers, Reynor's going to siege, but a little bit far away from the rest of his units. Might want to retreat with those Banes. They are a little bit too far gone now, but at least he clears the majority of the army of Clem. Still lagging back in supply is Reynor, but he does have a ton of resources to spend. The problem for him is Larva right now, as he's remaxing on Circlings. 1 Larva to his name, so 2k resources, but only 1 Larva. And here is where Dark is probably laughing at Reynor, right? Like, we've talked about how Reynor makes fun of Dark sometimes for making 6 Circlings. Well, Dark would have 3 hatcheries right now, and he would never run into this problem.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a problematic situation here for Reynor, as if finally his lurkers do actually have the range upgrade, so they're at least going to be able to be a little bit more effective against all these siege tank positions, but still struggling to try and find some defensive places, as we already see that Clem is starting to rotate around a little bit with some of his units. The counterattack over here, though, catching Clem a bit off guard. Only a few reinforcements around. The Liberator sieges up. Lings are going to end up retreating on out. Man, Reynor actually has such thick creep spread through the center of the map that's actually enabling some of these kind of run-bys, but can he still deal with this attack through the center? Man, I feel like that little angle, that little choke point has been so difficult for Clem to push through.
Yeah, and now with Vipers on the side of Reynor, he should have an easy time here. He wants to pounce on this army before the rest of the army can reinforce us. The rest of the army has been preoccupied trying to clear the little run-by that Reynor sent on forward. Now, Clem knows where the lurkers are, the majority of the lurkers are, so he will take on the other flank and manages to actually carve himself space to push further into this base. It's difficult for Reynor to readjust the numbers, so good job from Clem. They're just identifying which was the weaker angle, as he's now going to retreat with the rest of his army. Advantage Reynor as far as supply, as far as everything else, but again, lagging in terms of Larva. So if one of these hatches falls, it is still very dangerous for a Reynor that is not able to spend all of his money, at least not in Circling. So if he ever deems Circlings are the right unit to make right now, he is very Larva constrained. I would really love for him to try to, you know, like, give himself some room to make mistakes, to not have to inject perfectly. That hurts. and make himself an extra hatchery. As another one falls, that is gonna further impact his larva economy.
I think is one kind of blessing outside of, losing all these extra larvae to the Liberator over there, is that he is at the maxed out point now. So now his production is effectively stopped for a little bit. He's just going to be banking up additional larvae, being able to get up additional injects and whatnot into those hatcheries. So that is going to be a saving grace here for Reynor for the next minute or so. And he's been able to keep outside of that bottom location base, like in the center of the map, he's been able to keep all the other hatcheries alive, and I feel like he has been able to push back a lot of Clem's attacks. He's actually got a fair number of hatcheries compared to how many bases Clem has right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's working off of only 87 workers, right? Like, we know that Reynor at this stage would be very happy, especially on a map this big with this many bases. He would be very happy to be working upwards of 100 workers, or at least at 90. So the fact that he is under right now is a little bit concerning. Of course, like, yeah, if you're at 100 or so, you can continue to apply pressure. But yeah, at the very least, the game will stabilize. And like you said, now we have 22 larvae in the bank, just simply off of the fact that nothing has been happening. But in a 100 worker economy game, and in a game where you have more larvae to work with, then you would have been applying pressure, then you would have had the room to actually be on Clem's face, to punish Clem for his move outs, etc. Instead, we have Reynor having had to be passive, but now finally with a larva bank, with a bank accrued, and with the units he wants to push on forward, he's going to try to make something happen on two different fronts. The one more important here is on screen right now, as he's going to try to breach into this third base. That bunker coming in handy. It never did in the mid game, but now it's going to be good to stall for these lurkers moving forward. On the other side, lurkers also siege outside of the planetary fortress range, but there is a tank there to aid in its rescue. So Reynor not finding a ton of success, but it is enough. I think it is good enough trades for the time being for him to solidify his position in the game.
I think at the very end, just being able to find the position with these lurkers, continue to harass and prevent a lot of these, say, ghosts and everything from getting close enough to do the easy snipes has been very nice. He does still manage to actually get off a couple of snipes, does Clem. He's going to try and push him down the ramp over here, but a lot of Lings going to be greeting him. A lot of these ghosts are actually going to be pretty vulnerable. The ghost count is not that high right now. He's going to end up losing and bleeding out so many of these siege tanks also going down. Reynor charging on forward and now setting up 40 supply as he continues to push tiny bits further forward to try and deny some extra mining from these bases of Clem.
Yeah, that was strange. I just checked every orbital command as well, and the scan from Clem came basically as fast as he could from the main, because prior to that, he just didn't have energy, so those lurkers kind of pushed unopposed, whereas if there was a scan available, he would have been able to actually deal a little bit more damage to those on the come up. So a little bit unfortunate there for Clem, who is now further constrained. Now we have a Reynor at 94 workers, like we were talking about before, and he has managed to make extra hatcheries, while not macro hatcheries. He has expanding in locations where he can't really take advantage of the terrain at the moment. That is to say, he can't really mine the real estate with the number of workers that he has, but the hatcheries themselves are going to help him on the larva count. So now he has the ability to flood exactly like we're seeing here and continue to trade. This is now Reynor's game to lose.
Yeah, this is a very, very difficult defensive position over here for Clem. Ghost getting abducted by the Vipers. It's going to make things even more difficult just because these bases have been hard to keep up. There's only a single Ghost out on the map right now. Two more are about to pop, but you can even see most of the SCVs at this base are low on hit points. The planetary fortress is getting lower on hit points. The orbital command is floating around on next to no hit points. Clem doesn't really have a solid plan to unsiege this position, but the siege tanks, at least going to be a good start for it.
It is. That Ghost not able to fire there a couple of times onto the lurkers that are continuing to apply pressure. As Reynor is now looking to finish this game, he is angling with the rest of his army. He's going to go after a PF potentially, as the choke does get sent back by a few banelings here, and the planetary fortress will also fall. That is a position that is weakened for later in the game should Reynor want to reclaim it. He still has a bank to remax. Clem still under 140 supply, is gonna really struggle, as this extra lurker even is gonna be annoying. We talked about the bank. As far as Clem is concerned, he doesn't have very many scans to spare, so every one of them is gonna be essential to him. And now having to save those scans in the presence of him not being able to max out, wanting to drop those mules to make more units, is painful.
Every single base on the map that Reynor is supposed to have in a split map scenario, Reynor has already claimed at this point. And now he's actually going to find Clem maybe pushing a little bit too far forward. There come the blinding clouds down on potential locations for those tanks. Stagehank's getting all picked off. The Baneling's connecting on the remainder of the bio. The full-on evacuation out from the low ground base. But I think we're going to see an evacuation out of the game from Clem. Reynor ties it up, and we're going to a game 7, Cats.
Yeah, and that was a great game from Reynor. He wasn't over eager. He didn't try to push things too much. He just stayed defensive. He was very good with the creep spread. We saw there at the start of the game, he lost 500 resources when Clem had only lost 50. But that was, I mean, that was still amazing from Reynor, just to be able to get as much creep spread as much as he did, to be able to defend his terrain and situate his economy as well as he did in that early game was incredible. So Clem with a very strong push at some point, but once it got deflected, it was all Reynor, and we are now going, Ravi, to game 7, and it is going to be on Blackburn.
Winner takes all, a single map to decide who's going to be the champion of Europe. Kind of insane, man. It has been kind of insane to just witness these two going at it, but man, there's just so much, I would say, momentum now going in favor of Reynor, especially off of how I feel like dominant that last game ended up being.
Yeah, I mean, it is really good to see, and it is good to see the reset helping out Reynor as well, because when we talk about momentum, both of these players are very momentum based. We saw it yesterday with Reynor 3-0ing, and we saw it today with Clem getting off of a strong start on a very difficult map, but still losing the map, to then turn around the next 3 maps in a row, right? So we had a Clem that was looking unstoppable, but Reynor decides to take those 5 minutes, and they really seem to have helped them. Clem is not going to do the same thing. We're going to jump straight into the next map, and I would say momentum perhaps slightly in Reynor's favor, the map slightly in Clem's favor. We are all tied 3-3. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea who's going to take it, but I am excited to go into this game 7 with you, Ravi.
Me as well, Cats. Me as well, Paulo. We are going to be heading in, introduce these players. Last game guaranteed of the European region for DreamHack SC2 Masters Valencia Regionals. We're going to be starting down here, the bottom left-hand side of the map, atop of the blue Terran player. Can he bring this one out? Can he close this out? It is Team Liquid's Clem.
And in the bottom right-hand side for Kaisi, give him your energy. It is Reynor.
All right, chat. I'm going to be waiting on that 2-minute delay. Baguettes or pasta? Where are we at right now? Who are you cheering for? We began the series. We pulled Twitch chat, and 60-some% of you were all thinking it's going to be Reynor. Reynor's got this. All of us on the panel were saying Reynor has got this. But I think that it has been a much closer series than a lot of people were maybe anticipating. Even though I think all the games have been close, and I think a lot of us were anticipating close games, this has been very back and forth going up to game 7. Has Clem changed some of your guys' minds? Do you still believe in Clem? I want to know.
Absolutely. And yeah, the winner takes it all indeed. Ravi, I'm sure our Swedish production will appreciate that, as it is an ABBA song, of course. Winner takes it all, loser standing small. Beside the victory, that's her destiny. You know that song?
The winner
takes it all. It's a great song. And yeah, it is very apt for this final map here, as Clem is going to scout once again with his SCV. And Reynor did go for the hatchery first here on this map of Blackburn, a map that again is very difficult to be aggressive on, but it is a map that you can kind of be tricksterily aggressive on, right? Like you can go through the top of the map, you can set up nice Baneling Rambais there, you can set up nice Ling counter attacks like Reynor really likes on this map actually, and it is a map with very few bases to be mined as compared to the last one. That is one less, but that's, you know, that's a lot in terms of StarCraft, and that means a lot of the time that you can't have that 101 economy drone that Reynor had last game, for example, towards the end.
Yeah,
and you have to constrain yourself a little bit lower than that oftentimes, or at least Reynor likes to. I know that from interviewing him. Just simply because there's not that late game potential like there is on the previous map. So instead, we might see Reynor investing earlier into an army. We might see him looking for that counter aggression when Clem decides to move out.
Oh yeah, if there is a map that I oftentimes think of, the big potential of those Ling run-bys and trying to catch your opponent with the little swing arounds from behind the gold base around to try and do some damage, I think Blackburn is definitely one of the maps that comes to mind for me.
This is cool.
So, yeah, I mean,
this is very cool.
This has been so annoying. Actually, Reynor just saw the engineering bit. He didn't actually know it was still there. Wow.
I mean, that's so annoying if you're a Zerg, right? Because if you look at the money of Reynor now, he needs to find space to spend it elsewhere. He's going to make extra queens earlier that he doesn't want to make off of 2 base. He's going to make a bunch of links to push out these 2 Reapers. So Clem goes for the 2 Reaper approach here and blocks the expansion. On every other map, this approach is kind of void. Why? Because it doesn't matter which third you take so much. Now the link speed is done, however, so Reynor looking to punish this approach himself as Clem is going to find an angle to jump up the cliff and jukes back down the cliff. Now with the grenades. He's actually going to find a corner where his Reapers are going to be able to fight for their lives, but they will not be able to escape. The next grenade, it's going to have something to say about that, but it actually bounces some of the links forward and this Reaper will fall. Finally, Reynor gets rid of the Reaper threat, but not before being met by 2 Hellions. At the same time, he does clear his third for the taking, but that is a 4-minute third.
Cats, that entire time that the Lings were chasing the Reapers was time that the engineering bay was not being killed by the Lings. Like, imagine you could kill that engineering bay so much faster if the Lings don't feel the need to chase after the Reapers in that situation, because the Reapers have been so annoying. But Clem actually delayed the third base by such an absurd amount of time. I mean, Clem has got to be feeling good with this opening. There's no way a Terran player does not have a massive smile on his face. You know, at least internally. I can visually see on the camera that Clem is not smiling.
Yeah. No room for smiling. No room for emotion right now. It's all about being focused, being in the flow, being in the game, becoming one with it. But yeah, I'm completely with you, Ravi. That was fantastic micro from Clem, even just to stay alive for longer. It is not inconsequential. The Reapers go down, but they more than accomplish their job. I love that observation from you. And yeah, it is a 4-minute third from a Reynor that would have liked a much earlier start to this game number 7. But you know, at the same time, Clem, he did invest into it. He did invest into the eBay. He did invest into the extra Reaper. So it is not at no cost. Now the Hellions are angling to find something, and they're going to find a few links off of creep. Reynors have to gonna run inside and concede some room to where these drones are going to have to just evacuate for the time being until the Queens come to defend.
Yeah, take some time for the Queens to actually get over there, and nice job by Reynor using those links to scare those Hellions from actually diving in, even just snipe off 1 or 2 of those drones. Kind of felt like Clem was playing it a bit on the safer side. It may actually play a little bit back to the fact that, again, just the run-by attempts and stuff for Reynor throughout the series, but also just specifically on this map can be a huge pain. So keeping those Hellions alive holds a lot of value. But either way, for whatever the reason, Clem is not going to try and go for any kind of suicide mission with those Hellions to try and pick off drones. He's going to just try and use those Hellions to pick off creep. And that is, even though there's a lot of counterattack potential on this map, there is typically only 1 or 2 real main attack paths that a lot of players will go for, I feel like, primarily. So cleaning up the creep spread on those 2 attack paths is pretty important.
Yeah, and that's why Reynor has a link situated here at the top so that that doesn't happen again, right? If the Hellions are going to try to be sneaky again, this Zergling is going to give him a heads up, and he's going to know. These 2 Banshees are now going back to Reynor's side of the map. Previously, one of them got hurt, and it was sent back to be repaired, but now it's ready to go again and try to cause some mayhem. Also, the Banshees are an approach, I think, that is consistent with Clem's approach up until now, as they're going to get caught from this Overseer, and one of them will yet again take a lot of damage and will actually end its life, as her sister will survive with a full HP nearly. But yeah, I mean, Clem was hoping, I think, that Reynor would have taken the triangle third to some degree, right? Like as a result of that eBay block. And then you're more or less forced into roaches because the distance is so short from base to base. And then the Banshees become incredibly strong as well. So the approach from Clem, consistent overall. It is a roachier map, especially if you block the further away third from the Zerg. So now Clem with another very good consistent approach to the map. He's going to go behind the gold minerals. This tank is instrumental. However, he cannot let it get picked off. So he's going to turn around to defend it. These Banelings really want to connect here. So Clem has to be super careful and he has to be on point. But we already know that he's always looking for that. And the tank fire is fantastic. Even a single Baneling. And now the Baneling's trapped behind the Queens. That tank has done a little bit too much. And with that, Clem should be able to stabilize here. A lot of Queens off of creep. If these units get taken down from Reynor, they are exposed. And they will end up falling. Ravi, that means positioning for Clem here onto this gold to do whatever the hell he wants as well.
Clem dancing with his Marines, dancing for victory potentially as he moves back and forth and says, all right, here's here for round 2. I got 1-1 upgrades finished on up. I got the creep spread getting cleaned on up, and I have a really big advantage moving into this next part of the game. Reynor needs to hold on for dear life at this point. It is not even necessarily about trying to win a fight. It is just about trying to survive the fight. He is going to be able to push Clem back. There's not any kind of reinforcing units over here. It's just the Marines, but man, Clem is going to be feeling so good. Here comes the pivotal units. The siege tanks getting added back into all of this, and all of that creep spread he just cleaned up. Well, it's trying to be respread right now, but there just hasn't been enough time yet, Cats.
Yeah, this is a very difficult game now for Reynor, and Clem is going to look to capitalize, but Reynor does have the mindset to still fight, to still set up a surround. I thought he was done, but now it's going to be Clem with a little bit too much there, kiting off of creep. So Reynor looking for a surprise to try to equalize, but with that, his heart has to be sinking. In the previous altercation, he had already taken his hand off the mouse ever so briefly, right? Like we saw him touching his face, his nose, and now after this, I mean, he was really banking on that to turn things around, so he has to be feeling pretty bad. It does not look good for the Italian here as Clem looks to secure himself another victory in the European Championships.
The 4 overlords barely got started recently. Reynor actually cannot make more units. There's no additional units coming out right now, and even after that, it's going to take time for those units to actually start up and be produced. So the gold base goes down, but Reynor is still finally going to be able to get out a couple of these lings. But it's just too late. The damage has been done. Clem is up 30 supply as he takes a new base, has deflected the counterattack, and honestly, I mean, he's looking for more damage at this point.
Yeah, nothing is working right now for Reynor. It's not looking so good. The Banelings are going to lag behind, but Clem is still quick enough there to readjust and pick up those medevacs, go back into the main of Reynor as he pushes on forward. Reynor again trying to engage off of creep, trying to catch Clem off guard, but Clem is too tuned in to this game to be caught right now. It is just Reynor trying to mitigate for damage, trying to get back into this game somehow, but it is a Clem at 190 supply, now looking to close things out, now looking to take advantage of that with a beautiful spread of units. Reynor is gonna come from a single angle. That is not usually what you want, but Clem does have some units up against the wall. It's not gonna suffice. Reynor does get pushed back yet again. It's 2 tanks remaining in the backlines for Clem, and Reynor looking for a miraculous engagement, but it's gonna be so difficult to find.
And he's trying to find this against only a portion of Clem's army as well. Is he going to be able to find it? So the Banelin's getting very close to these Marines, forcing a pickup, at least keeping the base alive. But again, another costly trade. And this is all again with Reynor fighting only half of Clem's army. The rest of the half is now hitting the south side. And Reynor is going to need to find a way to split his forces on both sides, something he just simply does not have the army supply to do. But he's going to try and find some trades on creep. Banelings do manage to connect with a couple of these Marines, but the trades are just not good enough right now, Cats.
It's pretty much over by the looks of it as Clem will encroach on every which angle. This is Reynor, and he has no Banelings left pretty much. There's like very few units. There is 11 links. There's a few Hydra fighting for their life, but yeah, Reynor knows it. It's over. It's just Clem closing things out. Now these Banelings are gonna look for the final connections, and they're not gonna find them. That's gotta be it, Robbie. Clem is going to be your European champion once again, and Reynor, it has to hurt.
What a legend. Hands in the face there for Reynor. Hands in the face for Clem.